by John.
I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance
to the
to the
flag
flag
of the
of
United
the United
States
States
of
of
America
America
and to the
and to the
republic
republic
for which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
with liberty
and justice for all.
for all.
Okay, so our first item on the agenda is open forum, and for those folks who may be watching tonight and who have not yet heard, on Saturday morning, the select board interviewed 3 finalists for our town manager position, because as everybody knows, Jody is leaving us at the end of the month. We had 3 terrific candidates, and it was a very difficult decision for the select board. But at the end of the day, we have made a conditional offer to Kristen Lass, who is currently the assistant town manager for the town of Shrewsbury. The offer's contingent upon her passing a background check, and also obviously with successful contract negotiations between the town and Kristen. So we don't know her start date yet. That will be coming forth, but we hope we will have successful and quick negotiations, and that she will be joining us shortly. So wanted to let the public know if anybody still has not heard. And we're excited. We're sad about losing Jody, but we are excited about moving forward. So with that, anybody else have anything for open forum? Okay, and I don't see any from the audience. So we are at our 7:05 p.m., which is the consent agenda. And we have a request to approve the following. A special license for the Farm Festival of Lights. The applicant is Westford Remembers and Good Pick and Farm. The date is Sunday, December 18th from 3 to 6:30 p.m. at 5 Gould Road. We have a request for a Sunday entertainment license for the Farm Festival of Lights. The applicant is Westford Remembers and Good Pick and Farm. The date is Sunday, December 18th from 3 to 6:30 p.m. at 5 Gould Road. We have a request for a banner for the 2023 annual town meeting. The applicant is the town manager's office. The date is Friday, March 17th, 2023 to Monday, March 27th, 2023. The location is in front of the First Parish Church. And then we have a request for another banner for annual town election. The applicant is town manager's office. The date is Tuesday, April 25th, 2023 to Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023. The location is in front of the First Parish Church. And then we have a request to use the town common for vow renewal wedding ceremony. The applicant is James Ticknell. The date is Saturday, June 3rd, 2023. The time is the requested time now is 2 to 7 p.m. And the only question I have about that is that the rain date for Westford Academy's graduation if it rains on Friday? Because I believe graduation is usually the first Friday in June. So that's the only question I have about that. Jody, and then Scott.
Yeah, I don't know the answer, but Carrie, I believe, is a attendee and some school committee members, so maybe they can answer.
Yes, we do have school committee. And Scott?
Sure, I just want to make a request that we do this in 2 motions, one with the items for Westford members, and then separately the other ones.
Yeah, so is there a motion to approve the special license, the Sunday entertainment license, and the banner?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Scott?
Abstain.
Okay. Anita?
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. And hang on a minute. Alexander Mancuso just answered the Westford Academy calendar posted online indicated June 3rd as the rain date. So if June 3rd is the rain date for Westford Academy's graduation, I think we should hold this and let the applicant know. And also discuss with the schools. I don't know the timing. I don't know what time graduation is, so we should probably hold this one and figure it out with the schools. Okay. All right. We are at our 7:10. Oh, there's Dan. We are at our 7:10 p.m. item, which is a
Actually,
joint meeting.
can we vote everything but the,
We did.
I thought we Westford members, and then we didn't vote anything else.
I said the Sunday entertainment, the special license, and the banners.
Okay, so which
I
one
put
is
those
Westford?
up. We didn't
that's
vote.
why-
We didn't vote for the use of the town common.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. All right. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry if that wasn't clear.
That's not what I meant, but it's okay.
Okay. We're at our 7:10 p.m. item, which is a joint meeting with the FinCom and the school committee. And we are gathered here for the last time that Jody is going to present the fiscal year budget to us.
Well, thank you very much. I am pleased to provide you with this overview of the fiscal year 24 capital and operating budget. All of these documents are available on our website. And during the process of this, we did strive to adhere to your budget policy direction, which does sustain our town assets through capital and also maintain the level of services. I'm very pleased to say that our bond rating of AAA was supported and continued by Standard & Poor's this year. So we'll start off with our projected revenues, and we look at this 23 versus 24. It has been a challenging season, but there have been improvements with revenues. And of course, we've had several funding sources, such as federal funding, which has helped. One thing that I think it's important to note is this is kind of an unusual year in that we were receiving MSBA funds for the Stony Brook, Crisafulli, and Miller schools, and that is paid off. So those funds will stop. So that is what the 1.6 million offset is there. The other thing that I should mention is the other available funds is also showing a deficit, and that's because we don't have the CPA number in yet. So that will change once we get that. So local revenues, they fluctuate from year to year, as you know, and we do show a table here of the 22 actual revenues received, what we budgeted for in 23, and our projections for 24. Overall, local revenue in our projections is increasing 287,898 from 23 to 24. Most are earmarked with a 2.5% increase, with the exception of meals and hotels and investment. Meals has exceeded pre-pandemic levels, and hotel is about 87%. Motor vehicle excise is projected to increase 95,000 from last year's budget. Investment income is up, and we have received 36,820 in the first 3 months of 23. So we will continue to monitor this and make changes as appropriate. Another revenue that we need to discuss is state aid. And last year we received this year we're in fiscal year 23, we received a 2.23% increase, which with state assessments reduced, we did receive a total of 613,000 new revenue from the state for last year, or the year we're in now. For 24, we're estimating a $30 increase for each student in Chapter 70 and a 2.5% for unrestricted government aid and 1% in other categories. Because we have a new governor, they have until March 1st to release the budget. So these are the numbers that we think you'll be wanting to bring to town meeting. And we can always make adjustments in the fall. New growth, another revenue enhancement. This year, we're projecting 850,000. It does go up and down a bit, and this is a chart that illustrates the last 10 years. Additional fiscal year 24 general fund revenue. This is new general fund revenue, which totaled 1.6 million. This is money we can use for budgets and distribute as needed. We do, of course, have to pay our obligatory expenses first. And so we've shown that here. So if you take a look at this, you will see the 1.6 million of new revenue. And then if you go down, you will see the obligatory expenses, and you will also see the offset. Well, we had the offset of the 1.6 million in revenue, but this is the offset of debt service that went away, excluded and non-excluded debt. So that offsets the amount of revenue we had coming in on the MSBA. So when you put all that together, basically that gives us 2.270662 new funding to use for the departments. So we did share that with the schools in this budget that we're presenting, 70% to the schools, a little over 1.6 and 669 for the town. So the federal funding I mentioned, this is something that the board has been having a lot of fun with, I think, over the last several months, but we did receive 7.4 million in ARPA, which we really appreciate. And you, as of today, have spent 4.147 for 62 projects. And we will be discussing this after this budget presentation. So we could skip down, and the schools also received their own COVID funds, which was called ESSER 3, and they did use most of their funds to offset full day kindergarten in 23 and 24. Reserves are healthy. We currently have 11,388,000 in reserves, which represents a 9.92% of our total general fund operating budget. After leaving 5%, following your budget policy direction and accounting for what we're projecting appropriations for the upcoming town meeting, the year end would be 6.793 or 5.71% of our town budget. So budget highlights are every year, and I mentioned what the allocations are, what the schools and the town in my budget will be being. And I do want to point out that when I received the town department budget request initially, they were asking for $1.5 million of new money, and we reduced that line item by line item with the department heads input mostly. And so we had to cut about 913,000 out to get to a number to balance the budget. And I want to say I appreciate all the department heads working with us on that. So it is a balanced budget that we're presenting tonight. Collective bargaining agreements are obviously a big part of this. Whoops, sorry, lost my screen there. We have settled all 6 of the town contracts, I'm pleased to say, and thank you to all those units for working with us. And the schools are in negotiations right now for several of their units, and I have more specifics in this report. Unclassified is our biggest budget, and as you know, we converted the town's health insurance plan to a partially self-funded plan March 1st, and I am very pleased to say that that has worked out very well. We did transfer 720,000 from our health insurance stabilization fund, and then through careful analysis and planning of the trustees, our trust balance is now at 2.1 million. So we're very pleased about that. Our advisors told us we should get this 3.6 million. So we want to do that in an organized, systematic method, but we're going very well towards that. So for 24, we budgeted a little over 12 million for health insurance, and which represents about a 6.19% increase. The national average and local trend is about a 7 to 8%. So we're doing better than that. The unclassified for OPEB, Oh, actually, we did have a slide that shows the history. We used to move around to different plans, trying to save money here and there, but we've decided this is the best way to move forward. So unclassified OPEB, Dan's favorite topic, for fiscal year 24, we're funding $1,355,000 and $1 million through the operating budget and $355,000 out of free cash to meet the obligations. Middlesex retirement this year went up 4.14% and added 259,000 costs to the town. And of course, we do save by paying early. Additional public safety, staffing, overtime, equipment. I've been trying to fund the 5 new police officers. I'm pleased to say they've all been funded. The firefighters we have in the budget in 23 with ARPA funding, and in 24 we have in 25% of the fighters, and then we slowly raise that 50% in 25, 75 in 26, and 100 in 27. We were not successful with the SAFER grant. We just got notification on that, but we will continue to apply for that. Other adjustments, I'm not going to read through these. They're all on the website, but I'll make note of a few things. As you know, the select board did support hiring a community wellness coordinator, and I was able to fund that in the 24 budget. I was not able to fund the sustainability, but I have ideas for that. We reduced legal. We've been doing great with legal by 20 grand. Gasoline is up. And we've also asked for more ARPA. The tree warden was looking for 67,000. I was able to give him 40. We think Neshoba Tech's going up about 87,000. That won't be finalized until March. Street lights went down because of our LED light program. Thank you to Eric Heidemann for that. Estimated increase in wastewater treatment because we're out for a new contract. The COA, with the select board's support, we did fund a full-time driver. We were having trouble finding part-time drivers, and we have so many programs, we needed more van service. Veterans services we reduced due to actual benefits paid. And a new one, the land manager asked for 70,000 to treat Westford's water bodies as requested by Healthy Lakes and Ponds, and we were able to fund that at 50,000. So the enterprise funds, the water department, I believe will be seeking a rate increase, and they will discuss that with you. PFAS, which I think we've talked about a lot, is something we have to think about now, and also increased cost to chemicals. I will say we have not had a rate increase in, I believe, 15 years, so that they've been doing a great job. Recreation, our revenues are down because of the after-school program, but we've also reduced expenses, and we're prepared to talk to you about that in budget hearings. Ambulance is doing well, and so we funded another 50,000 to the ambulance enterprise. Last year we did 25. Stormwater, we're continuing that at the 600,000 subsidy, and we do not anticipate a rate increase for several years. Capital, there is the capital plan. We did just vote. It is available on the website. It's a $31,200,000 capital plan. And I've explained how this is all going to be funded, which you can look at in the capital stabilization budget or fund right now has a balance of 15,000. So excluded debt, of course, we just went through the October town meeting, and we did have a debt presentation. Thank you, Dan and Christine, and that is available online. I think we went a little too fast there. Where are we going? All right, so we're back. And anyway, so we have a goal of 7 to 10% of the operating budget. And with these projects I mentioned earlier that are being paid off, and the highway garage will be paid off in 24, the debt will be dropping to 4.75%, which is significantly below what your recommendation is. So we do think it's a good time to look at these other projects that are coming down the pike. So we do have a graph showing the excluded debt. And again, this is available online, so you can check back. I'm not going to go through the separate projects. We have a lot of details about this and you can go in and look, but so JV Fletcher, the 51 Main, the Blanchard roof. And then non-excluded debt for 24, the non-excluded debt, which means it's in the budget, is 2 million, just over 2 million, which does exceed the minimum borrowing by about $1 million. And so we have some specifics, but these would be the Town and School Safety Task Force recommendations and different subjects and infrastructure projects. Public Works, we are busy, busy, busy. I have a lot of information in here about the different projects that we're working on. I don't want to read through them to you, but we are happy to discuss any of these with you. But there are significant projects, and so it's going to be a little tricky getting around town as it has been for some in the past few months. 35 Town Farm, of course, is moving forward. We did just go out to bid for the training facility and it came in under bid. So that project is continuing and is expected to be constructed this summer. 12 North Main, of course, an ongoing project. We have received funding for that in several grants. And so that is, the cleanup is continuing with that project too. Recommendations for the budget, you know, we had two things that I felt were important to fund and could not. One was a sustainability coordinator, and this is 70% of her salary because Carlisle wants a 70% or 70-30% split for next year. And then we have this work order system that you did fund with ARPA funds. So I'd like to see if there's a way we could carve out another 80 grand. I had a couple of suggestions. One I asked you about, but if you used $1 million, just over $1 million of ARPA to fund the public safety radio upgrade, which was approved at town meeting, that would save $126,000 per year in debt payments that could be used for operating purposes. Also, you've talked about pay as you throw here and there through the years, and through Eric Hardiman's work, we were successful in receiving $360,000 recently to implement a program if you so choose. And we have another grant we're expecting to get between 70 and 140. So this will come to you in January, different ideas and what the expense reduction or revenue enhancement would be, and then you can make decisions. But if you do decide to do that, that money could be used for the upcoming budget too. So there's always other budget variables to consider, which, you know, we want you to keep in mind as we move forward. And these are some of the things that we want you to be mindful of. So that's my budget that we've presented and prepared. And Dan, I want to thank you again for all your efforts and your redos on this with me. But, you know, we are open to suggestions. We're very committed to looking at better ways, new ways to do things. And our objective has always been to just continue providing the quantity and quality of services that we provide to our residents. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jody. You know, kind of a top level overview of our budget. I don't know if anybody just has any initial questions about the budget, about any assumptions that were made in the budget, or whether or not folks are just going to go through the budget and wait for our budget hearings that start on January 12th. Tom.
Thanks, Madam Chair. You just hit on it. I just want to make sure anyone new to this process understands this is just a kickoff. We have budget hearings that we invite you to join us for. We're going to go through each and every line item in detail and ask a bunch of questions with the help of the Finance Committee. So lots of time to weigh in, lots of ways to have input from here. We're just getting started.
Okay, I don't see any questions from the audience. With that, thank you, Jody and Dan and everybody else who worked on this budget. We appreciate all of your hard work. All right, we are at our 7:30 PM item, which is our favorite topic, guys. It's time for ARPA again, which we haven't talked about in, I think, probably about a month, but it's our continued discussion of ARPA funding requests and to determine any allocations. Jody or Dan, which one of you is leading this tonight?
We're going to start with Dan on the summary, and then I'll get into the new requests.
Okay.
Great. All right, so here's the spreadsheet. We've all know it by this point. I want to note that the Board of Health, they did agree to close out the COVID contact tracers in the amount of $29,400. So that got added to the total that we have available to allocate. At this point, after all the allocations this year, the 62 projects in total that Jody mentioned, we have $3.27 million remaining. And just a reminder to everybody, we do have a new sheet up here that breaks down the approved capital request by category. I'm not going to go through this, but it's a select board packet and also online on the ARPA website under a town manager's site. With that, I'll hand it off to Jody.
Thank you. So I'm just going to mention at the start, before we go through the new ones, that we had rescinded requests, and that is the last page in the presentation, which is in orange. And these are all the requests that people have changed and backed out of. So I just want you to know that's here, and then we can go to the front. Okay, so for new requests, so for, Andrea, do you want me to go through these briefly?
Yes, please.
Okay, so from the select board and TSSTF, we had a new request for additional active assailant training in the amount of $20,500 for 24. Project 2 would be the similar training, but for the year 2026. Project 3 is a revision. We did ask you for gas and diesel. You gave us some. We need more, so we're asking for 50,000. That's a priority. Number 4, our town moderator is asking for 8525 to purchase 300 clickers for town meeting. That is also a priority. This is a placeholder from the fire chief for 596,607. This is, we are working with Lori Trahan's office right now. FEMA was reimbursing us for additional staff in the fire department, and then they decided not to, but they told us after we had already incurred the expense for many months. So we are working with our congresswoman to try to get funding, but we don't know yet what's going to happen. So we would like you to understand that's out there depending on how successful we are. So then this is a new request from the deputy fire chief for 77,000. He is asking you to consider allowing our fire, police, and dispatchers to have LifeScan wellness scans, basically, which scans your body to see if you have any signs of cancer, stroke, heart disease, and so on. The next one is the building department. This is a priority. You did approve a vehicle, a hybrid Ford Escape, but the cost has gone up. So we're hoping that you'll give us another $79.39 so we can get the building inspector his vehicle. Next is another priority. This is from the schools. These are unexpected transportation costs. He's asking for $151,752. Part of this is for the bus to get people down on Beaver Brook, and part of this is for diesel costs. And that is priority. I think I said that. So the schools put a new request and they removed a whole bunch of their other requests they had. So basically they're looking for $232,290. And this is the list of all the things they're looking for. And I know they're here if you want to have them discuss that with you. Next, we have the DPW, who is also trying to buy a vehicle, and the cost went up, and this is a priority, and so he's seeking 4509. This is a GIS request that came through for 32,000, and I'm told this is urgent, even though it doesn't say priority. But basically, our GIS, I guess, is not, it's the current system is not going to be working anymore, so we're going to lose that. So we need to get a new GIS service to replace it. The next one is again from Public Works. This is a priority of Steve's. He's looking for help from ARPA to help offset the cost to get CDL licenses. This is because staff have been retiring. We're trying to hire new staff. They don't have CDLs, and we're trying to plow the roads. And in the old days, they used to pay for these themselves, but we're finding it difficult to find people who have CDL licenses. Okay, the next one is Council on Aging, and they've exhausted the rent program, rental assistance, and they're asking for 90,000 now. They would like to continue that program. The library's looking for 2,300. She wants an owl, and if you know what the owl is, that's the hybrid camera that we used when we were doing hybrid meetings, and she would like one of those. She would ask for 2, but the health department gave her 1, so now she only needs 1. Then from WestfordCAT, they have a couple of different requests here, and I believe they're here to speak to them. I don't want to try to explain what those items are. This is just a placeholder. We are hiring an OPM for the HVAC at the senior center, moving forward on that project. We have $1.9 million. We're hoping it comes in under that, but I want you to know that that is out there. We got to pay attention to that. So those are all the new requests. And then the rest of the list is requests that were already here that you have not acted upon yet. And I just want to point out there's one in green that you have heard that was from me, and that was the $1,040,000 for that public safety radio system to free up operating funds. So that's it.
Okay, thanks, Jody and Dan. Questions and comments from the board? Actually, hey, Dan, can you just take the screen down for a minute, just because it's easier for me to see people if they're raising their hands. Thank you. Okay, Scott, Tom, and Anita.
Actually, I was just curious. So we've got the money allocated for the basic medical scans of our public safety employees, and I get the firefighters because they're exposed to toxins as part of the job. We like to be proactive in that. And I was just kind of curious the rationale for police and dispatchers, because it's not quite the same exposure risk, but I'm sure there's a good reason for it.
Okay, Jody, do you have
Yes, Mike Dennehy made that request, and I would ask him to speak to that if he's at the meeting.
He is, there he is. Hi, Mike.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
So the reason for the police and public safety dispatches is they're a higher risk at heart disease, quite a bit higher. So the firefighters, but they're at risk of cancers too as well. But their main thing is heart disease. They're about a 14% higher risk for heart disease, where like firefighters are 9% higher risk of cancer than a normal population. So that was the main reason behind that. But also it's a good baseline for the people. They look at your, they scan your heart. They discover if you have any leaky valves, stuff like that. If you have any existing heart disease, your carotid artery and stuff like that. So it's a good starting point to determine whether or not they need to see a specialized treatment or go to another doctor.
Okay, thanks.
Tom?
I just had a process question around the priority items, if those are time sensitive, if we want to walk through each of those one by one, see if there are any questions, and then make a motion for those.
I guess we can do that, as well as if anybody has questions about any of the other new either the new ones that aren't priority or some of the old ones that are also still on here that, you know, have been, that we haven't acted upon as well. So let me get some questions and then we can, I think, probably first talk about the priority ones. Anita?
Yeah, I just had a similar thought. I guess I would support anything that's, you know, especially related to gasoline for the schools and for the town. But I did have some questions for the school committee and the updated information that they submitted here. I could ask now or at another
I
time.
had some questions too. Why don't we hold it and let's, when we get to that, okay?
Okay.
John?
I'm going to ask Dan, what's the total cost for these recent requests compared to what the money we have left? What does that bring us to if we tried to award all of them or something like that?
So everything on this spreadsheet totals 3.52 million, and we have 3.27 million remaining.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so why don't we go back to the priorities? Dan, can you put the list up again? Thanks. So it looks like at least the first priority is the request for $50,000 for additional funding for fuel costs from the town, right?
Mhm.
And I think, as somebody said, I can't remember who, funding fuel costs and also funding the cost for the bus to get the kids from Beaverbrook to schools is probably a high priority since we really have to get our kids to school. So is there any discussion about those two? Jody?
Thank you. Just when you're voting, I think if you could call the project number, that just helps us make sure we get it all straight. Thank you.
Thank you for reminding us of that. Okay. So the project number for the school transportation costs is, okay, so there are two numbers here. So is that 8 or 16?
It's 8 for the, sorry, it's this column right here. So it's 8 for the request project number. And the town one is number 3.
Okay, so I don't see any discussion about that. So is there a motion to approve funding for requests project numbers 3 and 8?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and all those in favor, Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the next one is the vote, is number 4, which are the vote tabulators for town meeting. I think we all saw at fall special town meeting that we used all of our clickers. So the town moderator is requesting an additional 300 clickers. Any discussion about that?
You can't put a price in democracy.
There you go. Anita?
I was just wondering what the timeline was for when it would need to be ordered for versus when it would be ready for town meeting, because I wonder if it needs to be decided tonight or if we could wait.
I don't remember what the timeline was. If we're
Is it
gonna,
like
if we're
what's the
gonna
cost?
order, oh, go ahead, Scott.
I can't see the cost line with the pictures. It's what's the total cost in this one?
$8,525.
Yeah, on a basis of $1 million, that doesn't really break our bank anyway. So
Okay. Good call.
And I guess if we're gonna order them anyway, why not tonight?
I'm happy to make that motion.
Yep. Okay, I was just gonna say, is there a motion? And Tom's made it. Is there a second?
second.
All those in favor? Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
aye. Okay, what's our next priority? Oh, okay, so it's number 15, which is an additional $7,939 to cover the costs of the 2023 Ford Escape that we've already ordered, right, Jody?
We did not order it because we
Oh.
don't have the funds, but
Okay.
I know, and as a matter of fact, I think I was told that if we don't order it, it's probably going to be gone. So
Okay,
we're waiting to hear about tonight.
okay. Tom?
I just want to make sure, as I read this, it looks like this would not be a hybrid. And it, I understand there's all kinds of urgent needs, but it's good if the, well, maybe I'm wrong. Is Eric correcting me? Maybe I should get Eric to weigh in before I go any further.
I thought it was a hybrid.
Yeah, so it actually is. What happened was Ford canceled all the Ford Escape orders for 2023. So we had to find another option, and this was the only hybrid option we could find. So this is something that's on the lot, and we can get hopefully in the next couple of weeks. If we have to order a new one, it's probably 12 months out.
Thanks for clarifying, Eric. I didn't see that in there. Thanks. Perfect.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the additional $7,939 for the hybrid?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second,
Second.
Second.
and all those in favor, John,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Anita,
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, oh, that, now we're at 18. Okay, so this was,
Madam
Okay.
Chair,
yep.
I don't know where you're getting the numbers from.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is 10. I
Yeah.
missed it.
Okay,
Okay.
good. Thank you.
All right, 10.
Yep.
Okay, this is 10. And again, it's an additional $4,509 dollars for the vehicle for the I guess for the highway department, the water department, for one of them. And is this one, okay, and is this a hybrid as well? Is Steve Cronin on? Can he answer that?
No,
or-
I
One of-
don't believe these come in hybrid.
Okay, all right. I'm just trying to understand. Oh, no, because it's a dump truck. I should have looked. I'm sorry, my bad.
I mean, it's being bought through a council bid, so I would say we have to do it. So I'd make a motion to
Yep.
approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Rita?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. And then, number 12 is a request to fund, CDL, licenses at a cost of $21,900. Questions about this? Yep, Scott?
I guess it's, so if are we funding the acquisition of licenses by people who don't have them and we need them to be drivers, or are we going to then also fund the renewals going forward? I mean, is this like a one-time thing to get new drivers, or are we looking at a longer term expense here?
Jody, I'll get Tom in a minute. Jody, or can you answer that, or?
Well, I would say, I think we need Steve to answer this, and I hope he's
I believe he's here.
Here.
I'm not seeing him signed in.
Oh, I thought I saw him, but I will believe you, Eric, because you are monitoring it much closer than I am.
Oh, there he is. Actually, he's at the top. Never mind. Here you go.
Oh, there he is. Yep,
Hello,
Steve?
can you hear me?
yep.
Yeah, so this is a one-time expense, Scott. It's for new employees that we've hired that don't have the existing licenses. We currently fund the renewal of the licenses in the operating budget. But this is a new requirement that started this year for CDL drivers to obtain the licenses that they need.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to support them. We need drivers.
Hang on 1 minute, Scott. Tom, did you have a question? Didn't you have your hand up?
I did, but Steve answered my question, so I'm all set.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Scott.
So I think we need clean, we need drivers and absolutely right. The economy right now is short truck drivers. So I make a motion to support.
Second.
And all those in favor, Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Are those all the priorities? I appear so.
No.
No? Did I miss one?
Well, as I mentioned, it wasn't marked urgent, but I
Oh.
heard today, and that's number 11. And
Oh, okay.
Steve, if you're here, maybe he could explain that better than I did, but I was told is urgent.
Okay, well, Steve is here. So Steve, can you talk to that, please?
Yes, thank you. So about roughly $5,000 of this is really considered urgent. The People GIS, which is the public facing GIS mapping software that we use. We've had issues with support recently, and we're really concerned that they're going to support it moving forward. So, long term, 32,000 will be needed to replace or to upgrade the existing GIS system for what we need. But in the immediate future, about 5,000 of this is really needed for upgrading the public facing mapping software that we use for both tax and public works and technology.
Anita?
Sorry if you said this and I just missed this, but what the time urgency with this and why it wouldn't go through capital is why?
Yep. So the People GIS, which is our public facing online map viewer, they haven't supported any upgrades within the past year. So any of the changes that we've made to properties for tax purposes, the public isn't able to see right now. So, really that is being driven by the tax assessor.
Hey, Steve, as long as you're there, can I didn't see this question, but just to go back to the CDL licenses for a minute, there's a question that Christina Green wrote in. Is there an employment obligation for these new hires? I think what she means is if we pay for their CDL, do they have to stay for a certain amount of time?
Yes, so each one of the employees who participates in this would be required to enter an education agreement with the town. So they would have to commit to either a certain amount of time with the town or reimburse us for the cost of funding the licensing.
Great, thank you. Okay, so to get back to the GIS system, are there any other questions or comments? Do we want to fully fund this right now, or do we want to fund this at $5,000 to meet the immediate need?
I mean,
Go ahead, Scott.
sorry, I have to raise my hand. I'm being rude.
That's okay.
Sorry, Dina. I guess it seems to me that rather than in two parts, let's just do it all at once, my opinion, but that's one opinion.
Okay. Anita?
I mean, I know that 32 is not a really big number in the end, and I agree with Scott, but I'm kind of like, if we could go through capital, should we consider that and have the 5,000 to address the immediate needs? And then, because I think there are other things that have been on our list for a while that we could go back and address, or I don't know, it just doesn't seem as high priority to me, other than the immediate 5,000.
I think I'm in the same boat as Anita is let's fund the $5,000 now and, let's see where we are, in a little, in a month or so and whether or not, and also, where the system is. I mean, if the system suddenly breaks down and you need the other $27,000, then obviously, Steve let us know. But if we can address the immediate needs with $5,000, that's what I tend to do. So Anita, you want to make that motion?
I make a motion to fund $5,000 for line item number
11.
11. Thanks.
Second,
Second,
All those in favor, Anita,
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
John?
aye.
Aye. Okay, Tom has his hand up.
I'm interested if Jen Clara could help us understand the senior rental assistance, because that could also be really time sensitive. And if we're running out, I want to make sure we address it.
Right, I guess, Jennifer, we'll have Jennifer address this. Dan, how much have we spent tonight?
So far, you have spent just under $250,000, and we have $3,021,000 remaining.
Okay. Jennifer, can you help us understand your request? And then Anita, I haven't forgotten about you. We're going to get back to the schools, okay? But Jennifer, if you could help us understand your request. Are you there, Jennifer?
I can
Not
see her in the
sure if she
participant
is.
list.
Sorry, yeah, I'm here, sorry.
That's
Okay,
okay.
thanks, Eric. Yeah. So our request currently in our fiscal year 23, we have $8,000 left of ARPA funds. And basically the annual allocation for a household that's 300% under the federal poverty level is $2,000. As maybe many people know that, we have many families that have experienced rent increases between $300 and $800. Not to mention the escalating utility prices, gas prices, and food costs. So this request was to earmark funds for fiscal year 2024 and fiscal year 2025. For sure, if that's possible, or it might be where you all want us to, you might want to just go on and allocate the $30,000 for fiscal year 2024, and we come back to you, before fiscal year 2025. We know that we're going to expend all of our funds for 2023. Right now, like I said, we have around $8,000 left, and we're in December, and we still have 6 more months to go, and with a maximum allocation of $2,000 per household. So there's a good chance that we could not have enough funds to get through 2023. But I know Allison is, she works very close with Westford Remembers and with St. Vincent de Paul, but there also is a limitation on how much funding that they have. Due to there's a fundraising that's done, and sometimes there's a maximum that they can assist with a particular household. So again, this would just be able to secure funding for Westford residents that are experiencing a hardship, which we continue to see many.
Tom and then Anita.
Through you, Madam Chair, I guess, Jennifer, if we thought we were going to run out and we had families in crisis, then I would be interested to know if we need a supplemental request for fiscal year 23, the year we're in. I think requests for future years are probably not urgent. And as Anita said earlier, there's lots of other requests that address future years. But so to make this a question, do you think you need additional funding for fiscal year 23 to meet the need? And if so, how much is that?
I would say we do. I would say I would request probably $6,000. And if we don't use those funds, possibly they could be considered for fiscal year 24 or be put towards some other project. And then we could hopefully come back to you all with our request for fiscal year 24.
Okay, I'd be in support of doing that. Thank you.
Anita?
I would also be in support of doing that, especially with the anticipated rising costs of energy utilities. So,
Yeah, I think that seems to make sense as well. Jody?
Yeah, I just think we should be clear that if you're allocating these funds, that it is for this rental assistance and not for other purposes. Because we've been pretty strict about that, that if somebody wants to change their purpose after you've allocated, then they need to come back to the board.
Yeah, the funds that we've received for rent and utility assistance, we've been working extremely closely with accounting regarding the criteria. They basically are our second eyes. So we have been using the funds for intended purposes of rent and utility assistance.
Yeah, no, I know that, Jennifer. You said a minute ago that if you didn't need it, you could use it for other purposes. So I just want to be careful.
Sure.
Yeah, that we're using it for the purposes the board's allocating. And then if we want to change the purpose, we need to come back to the board. That's all I meant.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Jody. When I said for other purposes, I meant other town purposes. I wasn't referring to some of the programs that we were doing. I was referring to if the town needed them for other projects. If we didn't use that extra $6,000, they could either be put towards other projects the town wanted to put towards. Yeah, sorry.
It would revert back to the ARPA
Right.
fund. So thank you,
Correct.
Jennifer. Thank you.
Okay, so it looks like the immediate need is for $6,000 as a supplemental allocation for fiscal year 23. So is there a motion to allocate $6,000 from ARPA for rental, mortgage, and utility assistance for fiscal year 23 for project number 13?
so moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Scott,
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John? John? Okay, I saw you say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Got it, aye. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we go to the schools now? And I'm not sure who wants to talk to us about this, whether it's Chris or Chris Saunders or Chris Chu. But Chris Saunders has his hand up, so I think it's going to be him. Chris, are you there?
I'm
I
here.
There you are. Okay.
And yes, it is me.
Okay. Can you talk us through the school's request, please?
Sure, I'd love to. And I
like
put a
you're in an echo
presentation in the, oh, say that again?
You said you sound like you're in an echo chamber.
Oh, no, really? Let me see if headphones help. I'm gonna go with headphones here and see if that helps. Give me just 1 second.
Okay.
Better.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so thank you. We did put a presentation in the packet. It was a late edition, so I don't know if people have had a chance to see it. It does give a little more information, but I'm happy just to talk through this item right now. I mean, it kind of says it right there. It's meant to be comprehensive. The leadership in the district went off and looked at what we'd want to do strategically to address two high priority areas, and that's equity in the district and the social emotional health of our staff and students. And those are obviously things that are an ongoing focus of the district, but this would really complement what we're already doing and what we've always done, but it would complement it at a really critical time. And that is to look at the impact that the COVID pandemic has had on our district. And all of the items in this do have a direct through line to pandemic effects. A lot of these came out of recommendations from our staff, the people who are working with our students most closely, our teachers and our principals and our counselors. But we're also hearing from parents and in some cases even our older students about how they've been impacted. And so really it's highlighted the need to make sure we're just doing everything we can to look after the well-being of the students. One of the other goals was that we make sure that we're covering all of our schools and our grade levels, and we're doing that here. And so that's good that we, it's not focused on one age group or another. Like we're seeing needs at different things at different places. And I guess lastly, generally speaking, I would just say that there's several of these that we'd like to ramp up as soon as possible. I mean, we're coming up on 3 years since the start of the pandemic. And so for some of these, the sooner we can supplement what we're already doing, the better. I imagine you might have questions about the individual items. I can kind of quickly give a quick run through of each of them and then see what questions you have. Does that sound good?
Sure.
Okay. So the first one I think in the list, is the equity audit. So this is sort of a logical next step in our ongoing diversity, equity, and inclusion work. The district's already done a lot of internal reflective work. We've brought on a director of equity, curriculum, and instruction, but we really think it's important to partner with an independent expert, help us look for our strengths, areas for growth, and just having that independence of an outside partner gives just greater credibility to the process. This dovetails pretty nicely with our ongoing development of our 3 to 4 year strategic district improvement plan. We think that'll help feed into the improvements that we're planning over the coming years. And just from the equity standpoint, I would just remind folks that the pandemic didn't hit everybody equally. So we do feel like there is a direct COVID link here. The next item is the restorative practices. So this would be a pilot program that we'd probably phase in over a 3-year period, probably starting at Westford Academy, possibly bringing it to the middle schools if there are, if the capacity of the program permits. But it would be instituting restorative circles for community building and relationship building at Westford Academy, but also using restorative practices for addressing conflict. And in restorative practices, that's kind of you want a foundation of a restorative environment where there's mutual respect, there's strong relationships, and you invest in that so that you don't have as many behavioral issues and conflict. But when those do arise, you would address them in a restorative manner as well. Some of you may know there was recent legislation just a month ago at the state level that dictates that districts have to look for alternative approaches to handling student conduct before a suspension or an expulsion of a student. And that legislation specifically calls out restorative justice as one of the alternative means that districts need to be looking at before suspending or expelling a student. And it mentioned that because it really has become best practice in schools. The next item is maybe I don't have these in order. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't do these in order that you had. I had a different order. My apologies.
It's okay. We can follow.
Okay. I'll go back to the order in the thing. We'll go back to the educational materials. supporting trauma-sensitive classrooms. So this is, we actually, before COVID, the district had professional development for our staff on trauma-sensitive classrooms. We had pretty intensive training, so that was great. And this would really just be recognizing that with the pandemic and new traumas introduced, it's a good time to refresh. And it really is just, it's materials, it's quick reference guides that every teacher, and I think anybody having direct contact with students would get. And it's a really pretty comprehensive quick reference guide that covers the material of the course that our staff did a couple of years ago. Let's go to collaborative problem solving training for our leadership. I don't know how familiar folks are with collaborative problem solving. It can also be called collaborative and proactive solutions, but it's a way of addressing and working with students and student behavior. And I would note that that legislation that I mentioned earlier, which I think is MGL Chapter 71, Section 37 and H and 3/4, if anybody wants to look it up. In addition to restorative justice, it mentions collaborative problem solving as one of the alternative remedies that they expect districts to be using. So again, this is a way of addressing that sort of unfunded mandate from the state for having alternative disciplinary measures. And so we actually, a few years ago, we did partner with Dr. Stuart Ablon to do some professional development on this. And so this would be a follow-up and refresher, but it would be focusing on our building leadership in the district. Next, we did restorative practices pilot, anxiety support group for grades 3 to 5. So this would be an after-school small group counseling. We are seeing increased demand for this age group for this sort of thing. We've actually spoken to a local organization who provides similar support groups, and they're seeing increased demand. We're hearing it from our adjustment counselors. And I would note that we don't have as much, say, social work support for our students at the lower levels, but this is more of an emerging need. And we think a lot of it has emerged from COVID-19 pandemic. And let's see.
One more
Calming kits, yeah. And I think there's one that didn't make it in here, but I'll talk to that one as well, but is reflected in the overall amount. Calming kits for pre-K to 5 classrooms. These are things that you'd find in the classroom to help our younger students self-regulate. And we're seeing an increasing need for that. So various fidget tools, weighted stuffed animals. I believe somebody mentioned wiggle cushions. These are things that maybe you're familiar with, maybe you're not. And some of these do appear in some of our classrooms in the district, but we want to make sure it's equitable and available across the district for pre-K to 5. And the one that I'm not seeing in this version that I'll mention, because I do think it's reflected in the total amount, was re-engaging with Challenge Success. Challenge Success is a nonprofit that partners with districts to help promote student well-being and student engagement. The whole idea is the name, which can be kind of confusing and it needs to be explained, unfortunately, is that, they're helping us challenge our notions of what success looks like, and that there isn't one pathway to success for our students. And so the way this manifests itself is any number of ways of looking at your district and reevaluating things that you do and how might you do it that puts student well-being first. So it could be just simple things. I know one that comes up a lot is when a multiple test gets scheduled for a single day. And so that's really stressful for students. Schools will implement a calendar that teachers can share to coordinate and make sure they're not loading kids on one day. Things like project-based learning, a lot of focus on creating a climate of care, building those relationships, social emotional learning. And there's also an element of parent education in this too, so that parents understand some of the stresses their students are on and how we can all sort of help help support the students. And so we actually partnered with Challenge Success a number of years ago. And we've seen a number of changes since then that were inspired by that. Schedule changes at the high school, revised homework guidelines, increased transition times at the high school, a number of things, project-based learning at one of the middle schools. But we also know that coming off COVID, our students and our staff and our parents, for that matter, are feeling the pressure. And this has been borne out in some of the surveys we've been doing with our students in the past year or so. And so we feel like this is a good time to re-engage with the Challenge Success organization, get some of their consulting help with additional initiatives we can take on to help reduce that stress in our students.
Thank you. Anita, did you have specific, after that, after Chris's explanation, do you have specific questions?
I do have a couple of questions. So under the leadership training and collaborative and proactive solutions, so I just want to double check that the CPS practices, which you have listed under the PowerPoint that you submitted to us today, that's what is CPS? CPS is the collaborative proactive. Okay.
It is. It's the same. So there's two different names. It's a long story, but it's the same. It's the same approach.
We don't need the long story.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
It depends who you partner with. So they're interchangeable for all intents and purposes here.
Okay. I guess in general, I'm in support of the items that you have listed here. And I think a lot of these are could be related to COVID, kind of what you're seeing sort of as a result of COVID, kind of being out of school. The only part, and I'm sure you're not going to be surprised about this, is the restorative practices pilot that was submitted and then rescinded, I guess, last time, because I was and continue to kind of be pretty skeptical about this. I know you said it's a best practice, and I trust that I trust that it is, but at the same time, I don't feel like the restorative circles that were used or applied for the basketball game were effective, or I don't feel like that was really closed well. And so I am still kind of like, I don't feel like I think we asked for information last time this came up about like the lessons learned from that. I know I attended the school committee meeting to learn about it myself. And I just don't feel like that was closed. And I see that it's part of like kind of this bigger picture of like all these pieces that you're trying to put in, like integrate together. But that's the only one that that gives me pause. But I would be in support of all the other items that you have here.
I guess my question for you, Chris, is, and I don't know that you need to answer it tonight, is I think you started off by saying, some are more urgent than others. So I would be interested to know, one, which are more urgent than others, and secondly, is there a priority? Is there a priority from the schools and the school committee within your requests? And then I think the other thing probably that would be helpful, if we end up funding, some now, some later, or some not at all, I think it would be helpful to see a breakdown.
A breakdown in costs for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the presentation that's in the packet has that breakdown.
Well, I readily admit that I have not read it yet.
Yeah, that's fine. It was a late. So
Yep.
yeah, so I'm trying to think of the questions okay, so to respond to Anita's question, yeah, I think the simple answer is that this training is exactly what we would have liked to have had 3 or 4 years ago, so that everything that happened last spring, in an ideal world, is prevented, but also we have staff district-wide who can respond to events like that. It's a little bit like, building the plane while you're flying it, I would say. And we were trying to bring a restorative approach when really, and also teach the district about what that means. And that's a challenge. And so we know, again, because it is best practice, we know, and because the state is essentially telling us that we need to have this in our toolkit of discipline, we know that it's where we need to be, and this is how we get there over time, is that we build that capacity to properly do restorative practices and restorative justice. And then, Andrea, to your questions, I don't know if urgent was the word I used. There are some that are ready that we would love to start soon, right? Like they're sort of ready to go. We see the need. We know what it will take. There are some that we know are going to be later, perhaps because that's where they fit into, say, our professional development schedule and things like that. So I don't know if I wouldn't, maybe urgency is the word. We can get that. I don't know that I want to on the fly say
No,
which
I
ones
would, I
would be
didn't
ready when. Yeah,
expect you to.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I would say, I mean, yeah, I think we'd have to come back for that. But
Yep.
if there's a question of, you know, we don't think there are ARPA funds for all of this, then maybe I'd say, well, what do we think there are funds for? And then we could come back and talk about which things we would support with that. Like let our educational professionals figure out what the best use of whatever ARPA funding is deemed, you know, appropriate for this.
Tom?
Thanks. So just scanning the presentation that you gave, it looks to me like you've got a couple buckets here. One is stuff that is really directly COVID trauma related, and those look like they're relatively small dollar items. So maybe in a future meeting, I think we could package those and put that to work right away. The others, I think, I understand your point, if we could give you some guidance about the amount of money, but we're basically having all of these requests come in from all of these different places that we're trying to evaluate on the merits. So maybe if you can break down some of these individual things to different chunks, then we can kind of trade them off against other programs in terms of how they fit, as opposed to us coming back to you, Chris, and saying, you know, target $100,000. That's we're not allocating to different groups to spend as they wish. This is an overall prioritization. And then I don't know if the equity audit is something that's specific to education, but I know that Andrea and others have brought up in other formats. I think the town also has a number of sort of equity interests that we'd like to further explore and develop. So if it's education specific, then I understand that. If it's something that could potentially be a collaboration with the town level, I'd be really interested in seeing that develop as well.
That's a good point. I know some of the consultants that we've looked at specifically do education equity audits. But I will say, I don't know that has to be the way we would go, but I think that's where we were leaning, that we want that expertise. There's a lot of kind of domain specific expertise that probably would be helpful there. And I think part of it too is just remembering, especially in the context of schools, equity and diversity has a pretty wide range of definitions to also include special education. And so that could be a large chunk of what that audit looks at.
Anita?
Yeah, I guess kind of continuing Tom's comment, and I know, Chris, you were saying we'd have to come back to this, but I feel like there are 3 line items here looking at the presentation that immediately can support kids. If we're looking at services that, you know, that could help our kids right away, that's the anxiety support groups for grades 3 to 5, the educational material supporting trauma-sensitive classrooms, and then the common kits for the pre-K to 5 classrooms. And I feel like I would feel comfortable supporting those tonight, because then that could immediately, I think, be implemented and support these kids. And these are like, you know, I don't know, 2 groups of those are like younger kids.
Okay. You know, I hear what you're saying, Anita. I can't support it right now. And it's not because I don't support the concept. It's because I just haven't looked at the presentation and I haven't seen it. You know, it came in and no fault to you, Chris, you know, it came in late and I just didn't have an opportunity to look at it. Not to say that I'm not more than willing to bring it back, you know, in a really short time frame and take a look at it. John? And Catherine,
Chris,
hang on a minute. Catherine, I know you have your hand up and I will get to you. Okay, John?
Chris, what time frame would be covered by this expense if you did fund all of this? What would this cover? 6 months, a year, or whatever? And how much of it is, say, one of a time thing? It happens once, goes away, or is it all kind of continuing from year to year?
No, it's all really happening once. Most of it would be spent, you know, in the next 6 months. You'll notice, well, I guess, again, it's not maybe listed on the in the spreadsheet, but the one that would be spread a little bit more would be the restorative practices, because we slated that would be phased in over 3 years. So that would be a little more ongoing, but it would still be a finite timeline on that one.
Okay, thanks.
Catherine, I know you've been patiently waiting. So can we unmute Catherine Clear?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Oh, awesome. I hope you don't mind, Chris, me jumping in here. One of the things that Anita kind of asked about was the restorative practices. And I don't know if we made it clear enough. We were talking kind of about restorative circles. As a teacher and an educator myself, I think it's really important to understand they're not just restorative circles like we experienced as a community. The absolute most up-to-date educational theory and research talks about both restorative practices and collaborative problem solving in a daily basis as a practice for all staff in how you navigate relationships and conflict and student issues in the classroom and on a higher level. So it's not just, both of them are not just about kind of the wider community kind of, or those circles that we saw a lot about. I talked a lot about last year with the incident at the high school. So, and I think, basing on everything that I've been hearing you say, I don't know if any of you are aware, but I'm also a member of CPAC. And one of the things that we're hearing an awful lot about through the parents regarding special education is a lot of our children who are currently ending up in these conduct and disciplinary issues are kids who have IEPs. And the restorative practices and the collaborative problem solving or proactive solutions are key components to actually working with these kids who have special educational needs. And to be honest, a lot of these kids were probably the most impacted through COVID regarding education and school. We still have kids who literally can't put their foot inside our buildings. And that's, after we're back, this is our second year full-time back. So there's a lot more to the restorative practices than kind of maybe the circles that we spoke of last year. And I hope just to tag on the equity audit that we spoke of.
Okay, Catherine, you really need to wrap it up, because you know what, with some of this stuff we're not going to vote on tonight, and we will get back to it. Okay.
No worries. I just wanted to say with the equity audit, again, it's an education based, and again, it focuses on special education, the economic and the technology access. And to be honest, I don't know if Chris really stressed it. All of these are pretty urgent, considering the what we're seeing in the schools right now. And also the MGL law that came in, as Chris pointed out, has been in effect since the 8th of November. So there is kind of an urgency to fund these in order to get our district up to date and across the board.
Thank you. Okay. What's the pleasure of the board tonight? It's Tom.
I would certainly like to see these presentations and have a little more time with the document you sent, Chris. But I think it might be helpful, at least for me, to see things that are directly urgent, like 60-day urgent or 30-day urgent, especially related to COVID. I think you'll probably get a lot of support for those very quickly. And then if we can get a little bit more detail on some of these others, so we can trade them off against the many other things on this list as we go. And I think I understand that this is an equity audit specific to education. So that addresses my question. And I guess just overall from agenda, it looks like we may be at a point we want to wrap up this part of the discussion overall.
Right. Although I'm going to bring up one other thing. Scott?
I guess I'm with Anita. I'd be in favor of supporting the trauma sensitive classroom, the anxiety support groups, and the coming kids. It's just my own opinion that those I think are fair enough that they're justified, but that's my thought.
For somebody who hasn't had the opportunity to see that, what are we talking about in terms of costs? Total between those, for those three programs?
Let's see.
Like 48,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
Ish.
yeah, 49,250, I think.
Well, I mean, I leave it to Scott, do you want to make that motion? Or Anita, do you want to make that motion? I mean, what's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Jody has her hand up.
Could you just repeat, so we're very clear on that, on what you're voting, please? Thank you.
Of the bullet points, it would be number 3. Sorry.
We're
what
in,
number-
Jody, we're in project number 9.
So 9 dot.
I know
Two?
that. I'm just
Okay.
trying to, I don't see it too. If you could
The
tell.
second bullet point, education
Okay,
material,
so educational materials, okay.
and then the last 2 bullet points, the anxiety support group for grades 3 to 5, and the coming kits for pre-K to 5 classrooms.
Okay, and that's 49,250. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? Anita,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Before we leave this topic, the chair is going to exercise some discretion. Joan Bennett has attended probably 3 of our past meetings, wanting to at least talk to us about about a part-time position for the Economic Development Committee. And, you know, for the past, each meeting I've told her, or we've told her, yeah, we'll get there, not tonight. She's on again tonight. She provided us all with a memorandum, and I feel obligated at this point that we or I am going to let Joan speak to us about her request and the Economic Development Committee's request to fund a part-time position. I don't know that we're going to vote on it tonight, but I think we should give, I want to give Joan the opportunity to speak with us. So if you could unmute Joan.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can, Joan.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Andrea. I appreciate this, and thank you all, because I know you have a very extensive agenda. I don't want to recap what was in the memorandum or on the pages I sent to you. Can I assume that you have read this, and I want to take this time and respond to your questions?
Yes, you can assume that we've read it.
Okay, thank you. The committee just feels very, very strong that this would be a position that could actually bring funds to the town, as you saw in the proposal. What could I answer for you? And you should know that Dave Flanagan from Insulet, Alex Mancuso from Biotech Realty, and Cheryl Serpy from Enterprise Bank are on also. And we're all anxious to be able to answer your questions.
Okay, do folks have questions for Joan? Tom?
Well, first, Joan, I'd like to apologize. You were explicitly on a previous agenda and then it was removed in some update. And so I would have jumped all over it, but I'm glad you're here now. Anyway, I can share my perspective a little bit working on this. I've grown to think this is an important project, mostly because I think we really need to establish a baseline. We need to understand kind of the inventory of what we've got, and we need to get a coherent plan together. I don't know if we'll need an ongoing, resource 3 years from now or 10 years from now, but I do think that there's a gap right now in our understanding and support of our business community and all the members thereof. So, and my only other thought is the new incoming town manager had economic development in her portfolio, or has economic development in her portfolio in
Yes.
Shrewsbury. So if it's the board, if it's the chair's pleasure and we don't vote on this tonight, I'd really be interested in hearing what kind of collaboration comes out of a discussion with her before we make a final vote.
Right.
Thanks.
Tom,
I-
I'll respond to that. We are only looking for funding for a 2-year period at this point in time. This is a proof of concept. So that if this proves to be hugely successful in bringing revenue to the town and really beefing up our commercial and industrial base, we will have proven this is a position that it has been needed and is needed. And if it does not prove that, then the position would go away.
Yeah. You know, I think it's definitely important, and you know, we've always talked about for years about trying to increase our commercial and industrial base. But I, as Tom, would like to hear from our incoming town manager any thoughts and ideas that she may have how this position, if we do decide to approve it, could be structured, and how we might go about it. So, you know, my feeling is, you know, I'm not prepared to vote on it tonight, but I am prepared to continue the discussion. I think is the
Okay,
best.
no,
way to-
I understand that. And I do think Kristen, our new town manager, will be very supportive because of the role she has played, and she has seen how important it is. And the committee would be very interested in working with her and the select board in coming up with all the elements we need to make this successful and to really to boost revenues. That would be a great thing to do for the town right now.
Anita?
I'm in agreement with Tom and Andrea about waiting to see what Kristen's ideas might be for economic development in town. But the question that I did have with the proposal that was submitted in our packet was the one around the Westford Business Association and how membership has declined. And I was trying to figure out, isn't that a private organization? And like, how are you tying that to the economic development coordinator position?
It is not a private organization. It came out of the Westford Economic Development Committee probably 5 or 6 years ago. And it has just been a not-for-profit group trying to target and bring together small businesses. And it's really a shame what's happened with COVID, because it has just fallen apart, quite frankly. And I think we can resurrect that. Certainly small and medium businesses would be a target of this person, because large businesses have such huge staffs to handle many things, but we also need to connect with them so we know who their contact people are. I hear about grants, I hear about monies, I get all these emails, and I have no way of getting that information out to the business community. And that's unfortunate.
So the Westford Business Association is not a private nonprofit?
No, it is not. I mean, it could, I don't know what the incorporation is, but I can tell you it did come out of the Economic Development Committee.
Okay.
And it is just really dissipated, Anita. But if you have more questions on that, I'll be happy to get more information.
Okay, thank you,
All right.
Joan.
Well, I thank you very much, Andrea. Okay. Look forward to the discussion with the new town manager.
Okay.
All right. Goodbye now.
Bye-bye. Scott?
I mean, I know we're late, but I really would like to look at number 3 again.
3. All right. Can you scroll up to 3?
I'm sorry.
The
it's number record.
gasoline?
Sorry, number, what's the one that we had for the testing of our first responders? Is that 5 then, maybe? Scroll a little bit.
That's 6.
Okay.
6.
You know, I understand that. To me, this is one that, I mean, we know we've had first responders go down with cancer, with stroke, and to fix those is hundreds of thousands of dollars in terms of rehab. So find them early is a good thing. And I'm not saying I want to force a vote tonight, but if we have any questions for the deputy to get answers, I'd like to just on the table for him to research, so we could vote on it sooner rather than later.
Okay, and Mark Chambers, our police chief, is also on and can answer any questions if you, I know, Scott, you raised some questions about the police, and he's here and he can answer any questions as well. Anita?
Yeah, I remember hearing this idea from the deputy during his interviews for the position. I thought it was a great idea. It's really thoughtful. But I have a question about how it relates to just health insurance in general for our staff. And why it wouldn't be covered there, for example, or, just kind of figuring out payment there.
Jody?
Yes, so I actually did, when I had my physical in September, I did talk to my doctor about these kinds of scans. And I don't think that kind of intensity of the scan or the thoroughness is covered by health insurance, just go do it. It's if you had some condition, then you could probably get those tests. But this is basically, taking the whole body and running these kinds of scans to see if there's anything there. So that's the difference. It's not a doctor ordering these tests. It is, we're paying to have these scans done. So that's what my doctor explained is a difference. And then the other thing he said is a lot of these things to be found during a normal physical, but not necessarily to the level that these scans do. So anyway, I don't know if that helps.
Anita, did that answer your question?
I have a follow-up. And just, so are we contracting then with LifeScan Wellness? Is there a mobile van coming? I'm trying to understand what this process is then.
Yeah, I mean, Mike would have to give a specific of whether
I was
it's a
just going
mobile
to say
or not.
both Mike and Mark Chambers are on, so let me flip to them, okay? Mike, and then oh nope, I guess Chief Mark Chambers. Whoa, both of them are now talking is permitted. Okay, Mark, you want to go first, and then Mike.
Yeah. So one thing that I would just like to point out, these scans are really preventative, early intervention types of scans that, due to the age and usual physical condition of police and firefighters and dispatchers, aren't authorized under insurance. And with the higher rates and instances of cancer and heart disease and stroke in police and fire, that's why these are so important to intercept these early, because you can start to take mitigation towards these types of conditions. So as Mike said earlier, there's a 14% higher risk of dying from cancer for firefighters than the average population, just as if one of the number one killer of active and retired law enforcement officers is actually heart disease. And police have a average life expectancy that is less than, which is actually more than 23 years less than the average general population. So by participating in this type of program, we can't get this type of testing on our own through our insurance. So that's the request. By getting this type of testing, we can do the early detection for cancer, strokes, heart disease. And now that the town is partially self-funded for health insurance, if any member of any of our public safety departments were to intervene early, it should save the town actually a significant portion.
Thank you. And Mike?
I just wanted to add, so it's a team from Florida that comes up. They come up with a whole team and all their equipment. They just need they need an area to do the test, so it's private. So each individual goes into, which we have the space up here at headquarters. We have the exercise equipment that they can use to monitor their heart rates and stuff like that. So we're well equipped to do it up here. They bring all their equipment and all their staff with us. I just want to touch base. I did this exact scan back in February through the Maynard Fire Department, and it cost me out of pocket. I paid for myself. They did find a large goiter in my right thyroid that turned out to be a Hürthle cell, and it was encapsulated, so it was good, but it could have turned into a very aggressive form of thyroid cancer. So I benefited from it. Unbeknownst to me, none of my blood work showed any indications of nothing. So it worked. I'm glad I did it. So that's biggest reason why I want to bring it to our department, I want to have all the police, fire, and everybody at least go through it. Those that want to go through it, it's strictly voluntary. So
And Mike, is it once a year? Is that what's being proposed?
I just want to get it on the radar to do it this next year. Right now, they're booking into next summer. So
Oh.
if this is something that the town is interested in doing moving forward, we could absolutely do it, every 3 years, or they do need a minimum of 45 people for them to come up. They did tell me that that's how I got on Maynard's. Maynard didn't have it enough people, so they reached out to other departments. And I know several members of Maynard Fire Department, which I was able to get in on them.
Okay.
And, oh, sorry, Andrea, the amount being requested is if every single person that falls under public safety is to participate. And I wouldn't anticipate that. I would probably anticipate between a 60 and 70% participation rate. So even though we're requesting 77,000, I would highly doubt that we're going to get 100% participation.
There is some legwork with it. I mean, the individuals have to go get their blood work done before they do the rest of the exam. And then they sit down with a nutritionist, the whole 9 yards. They give you all your documentation and recommendations to go bring to your primary care with anything they find. I know fire departments in Massachusetts, several of them that do it yearly for all their new hires. Maynard being one of them, Bridgewater, there's a couple others. I reached out to them and they have it in the firefighters contract that they do it for every new hire, and they do it on a routine basis down the road, whether it's every 3 or 5 years, they bring them in.
Okay. Anita, and then Scott.
Yeah, I guess, I'm glad I had the same question, Andrea, when you were saying, is the frequency of this scan, and I'm trying to figure out if there's a way to think through. So, I don't know how helpful it would be. I'm sure it is helpful, right? But just like one time, it feels like this would be sort of an ongoing need, kind of as you mentioned, Mike, that other places are doing this more routinely. And is this something it could be related to the health insurance trust, kind of landscape? I'm just trying to think of sort of a longer term, way to address it.
And I'm also trying to think if you say that they only come up with a minimum of 45 people, I mean, is this something that at some point could sort of be, regionalized? Is that we share, Westford, Chelmsford, Acton, we share it, and the group comes up to do evaluations and testing on a group of people.
I mean, that's an option down the road. Absolutely. I mean, I know like the Littleton guys, if we don't have enough people to partake in it, Littleton's already said they would get in. I've already reached out to Chelmsford Fire. Their union president said they would be more than happy if we didn't have, so moving forward. But initially I want it to be us and see if we can get the 45 people, which I feel pretty confident between the 3 departments, police, fire, and communications, we'll get the number of people that's needed to do it this initial year. And then moving forward, if we reach out to Chelmsford, Littleton, Groton, and do it on a, whatever the regular basis would be, yearly, every 3 years, every other year. I mean, obviously, I don't think guys is going to do it every year, but I think this first initial one, I think you're going to get a good participation level.
Jody?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to the health insurance part. I think that would be difficult because the premiums are paid by employees and the town, they share the health insurance premiums. So for offering a benefit to a certain group of employees that some may not even be on the health insurance, but the only way I could see that flying was if every employee on our health insurance received this benefit and they agreed to this. But yeah, it would be very hard to just give it to a few groups.
Scott?
Well, I guess we've, other things you found under ARPA were meant to be, it's a pilot study. It's the first year, and then if it works, the budget may or may not want to take it on in the future. So I was doing this. We may have to do it every, or maybe advisable to do it every 3 years, but I was thinking if you use ARPA to fund the first one as a pilot, is there value to this? Does the employees find value? That would be guidance as to future funding in the regular budget. I'd be inclined to support it.
I guess I have just a couple of other questions. I mean, I support the concept certainly for our first responders. Absolutely, anything and everything we can do to keep them healthy and to do preventive medicine, I agree with. I guess I'd like to know a little bit more about the company in Florida that does this, and just kind of what they do, how they implement it, what the operations are. Is this the only company around that provides this service? I think before I'm absolutely comfortable, I just like a little bit more information on that end of it. Anita?
I agree with you, Andrea. I'm in the same boat.
So maybe, so I think perhaps, what we could do, Mike and Mark, and I'm happy to work with you as well, since I brought the topic up, is to just gather some more information about LifeScan and this company and exactly how it works and operates, and also maybe just get a little bit of information from the other towns and communities that have used it before we go forward.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, great. And I'm happy,
Thank you.
I'm happy to, like I said, happy to work with you guys. All right. Anything else that anybody on the board wants to bring up tonight? All right. Dan, how much did we spend tonight?
Total of $255,626.
Okay. Sounds like a good night's work. Okay. For everybody else, we will continue. I mean, we had taken a sort of hiatus from discussing ARPA projects because we were waiting for all our funding to come in. We've got all our funding now, so we will continue our discussion now with the projects that have been brought forth as we move forward into the next year. But thank you all very much. Okay, we are at old and new business. First, item 1, we have a request to open the annual town meeting warrant. And town meeting is on Saturday, March 25th, 2023. So is there a motion to open the warrant?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor? Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We have a request from the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for a proclamation which adopts a working definition of anti-Semitism, proclaims January 27th as International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and recognizes the month of January as Holocaust Education Month in the town of Westford in perpetuity. This is, as you know, we talked about this at our last meeting, Joe Diamond, who's vice chair of the DEI committee, was and has come back to us with a draft of the proclamation. So, Joe, we can unmute you, and also you should know we have all read it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. Thank you. And we appreciate this opportunity to visit with you. Again, we appreciate the approval of the 3 main points of the proclamation. We prepared it in the format that's appropriate to Westford. I will say that it differs slightly from the samples that we provided, in as much as we did add a whereas statement related to Westford's character as a peaceable community. And then we also added a statement related to the importance of public schools as a way of providing information about the Holocaust and its significance. So this follows up on your approval last time, which again we very much appreciate, and in some sense memorializes those 3 steps. I will say that I want to appreciate the fact that that Anita connected me to the school committee. And I'll be meeting with Chris and I think the school committee next week. And I also want to thank Chris for connecting me with Magali Ronan, who is the new Director of Equity, Curriculum and Instruction as well. It was a point made, I think it was by Scott, that the element related to recognizing the month of January as a Holocaust Education Month should be thought of as a way of actually providing this sort of approach and integration of this information, which already exists, I'm sure, to a degree, through the school system, and not just for 1 month. So I thought that was a really nice insight. And so that's why meeting with the committee and with Magali is really important and appreciated. So to conclude or close, we respectfully request your approval of the proclamation, which will set the stage for the further steps in working with the schools.
Okay, comments and questions? John, no, you have.
Well, I sent a comment in about just the wording. One of them was the first paragraph where it says proclaims. That's one of, you want to adopt a working definition of anti-Semitism, proclaim January as International Holocaust Remembrance Day. I don't think proclaims is parallel with, I think just the word subject agreement there.
Perhaps recognize? Perhaps recognize?
No, he's just saying that
no, it's just
the
just
subject
a
is the subject is plural, but your verb
Oh.
is singular, so it should say proclaim and not proclaims.
Sorry, thank you. I appreciate
That's
it.
my major comment. No, the other one was perpetuity. How do we reconcile perpetuity? Theoretically, this could be changed over time, or somebody, another succeeding select board. I don't think they would change the entire thing, but there may be some changes to it. So what about perpetuity? Is that a thing we can do?
Jody?
You can claim that, but another board can unclaim it. So, it doesn't mean that what you decide stays in perpetuity. So, just like town meeting, another town meeting can change what was done. So,
How about instead of in perpetuity, we say recognize the month of January as Holocaust Education Month henceforth? That kind of leaves it open-ended, and it could henceforth be forever, or henceforth till somebody else decides to change it.
Or just put a period there. Okay. And just thinking about, I have one other question, just thinking about the working definition. How do you see that being used? We make the proclamation, and how do you see that definition being used?
The way that I'm sorry, Andrea.
I was just saying, you mean the definition of anti-Semitism, John?
No, the definition, the working definition. I understand it and agree with it, but the question is, how do you see that being used? Is it going to be used to judge people? Is it going to be used in any kind of official capacity? How do you see that being used?
If I might, the way I've talked about it with the folks at the Lapin Foundation and American Jewish Committee is that it sets a framework for understanding what anti-Semitism is. And the goal is for more and more communities to adopt this working definition so that there would be in fact, the state has adopted it as well. So that it would become a common framework for an understanding of anti-Semitism. People that I know have said, well, why do you need to define it? I said, because I think it's important that there be a common definition. Sometimes people are surprised that there's an action that others would consider, an expression of anti-Semitism. So this wouldn't, and to your question, John, I don't think this would be used per se in an active sense, but would help guide public officials and others in terms of what anti-Semitism is.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Is there a motion? Jody?
I just one clarification. Are you going with the period after the word in
Westford.
the town of Westford, or are you going with your suggestion, Andrea, henceforth? I wasn't clear to me which one you were going with.
It's not clear to me either. What's the pleasure of the board?
Okay.
I'd be happy to make a motion with henceforth and the other grammatical correction included.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
And all those in favor, Scott,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Anita,
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Joe, and thank you to the DEI committee.
Thank you very much. Appreciate this. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Okay, we are at our, let's see, we have a request to accept the following easements. A drainage and cistern easement for Parker Landing, also referred to as Anne Marie Way or 85 Carlisle Road. And a sidewalk easement for Cloverleaf Fields, formerly 22 Griffin Road. And our town planner is here.
Good evening.
Hi. Let me ask, I assume that folks have looked at this. Did anybody have any questions? Okay, we'll take them separately. Is there a motion to approve the drainage and cistern easement for Parker Landing?
I'll move.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor, Tom,
Aye.
Anita,
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. And then is there a motion to approve the sidewalk easement for Cloverleaf Fields?
So moved.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
And all those in favor, Tom,
Aye.
Anita,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and Scott?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next, request to approve changes to the town's current sealer of weights and measures fees. Hi, Eric. I know we talked about this at town meeting, right?
Yeah, so as you may recall, the state cut off our contract last year. We were previously paying $3,000 a year for this contract. The actual cost to do it is much more. We're now using NIMCOG, which after we compared doing it in-house versus contracting, we decided NIMCOG was the best option. And we're just trying to adjust the fees to cover the cost of providing the service.
Okay, any questions? John?
Eric, is there any possibility of teaming with another town? I think that's happened in other places to perhaps lower the cost.
John, we could certainly explore that in the future. I did try to reach out to every single town around us and I couldn't get anyone that wanted to do it, or they were either with NIMCOG already.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
And all those in favor, John,
Aye.
Anita,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Eric. We have a request from the Pedestrian Safety Committee to appoint Jeffrey Olshan as an alternate member for a term expiring on June 30th, 2024. Is there a motion to appoint?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
And all those in favor, John,
Aye.
Anita,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. We need to consider our select board. Oh, we need to talk about our select board December 2022 meeting schedule. We're scheduled, our last meeting of the year is scheduled for December 27th. I'm not sure whether there will or there will not be things on the agenda for that. So I think at this point, we should probably just keep the meeting on our schedules. If it turns out that there's nothing on the agenda, there are let's try that again. If it turns out that there are no items for us to consider, then we can cancel the meeting. But I think we should keep it on our agenda for, on our schedules for now, just in case.
Yeah, the 26th, that's right.
27th, is it the 26th? No, it's the
Yeah.
27th.
26th is the Tuesday after.
No, the
Christmas.
27th is. Today's the 13th, 2027.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong year. That's what I get for looking at two.
You serious?
Yeah, you're right. I am.
We haven't finished this year, John.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm in a hurry. No. Okay, thanks. Sorry about
All
that.
right. And last is, we got in our packages the 2023 Select Board meeting calendar. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about it? I didn't see any either, so.
No, it looked pretty good.
And of course, we can always change it during the year anyway. Jody, do we have to move to, do you need okay, is there a motion to approve the calendar for 2023? A second?
Okay.
All those in favor? Scott?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
And Tom?
Aye.
We're at 8:30 PM item. We have a request for a change of directors on a general law, chapter 138, section 12, all alcohol club license for the Nabonasset Country Club at 47 Oak Hill Road. Jamie Elmore is here tonight if we have any questions. But I don't know that we do. Is there, anybody have any questions? I don't see any. So is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We're at our 8:35 PM item, which is a public hearing. It's continued from November 29th, 2022 on a potential nuisance dangerous dog hearing. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, Scott?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. And is there a motion to waive reading of the public hearing notice?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, and all those in favor, Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we received a complaint from Amy Powers of 47 Vinebrook Road regarding a potential nuisance and dangerous dog located at 25 Vinebrook Road, owned by Catherine Hollister and Peter Mahler, and to consider any enforcement action in accordance with General Law, Chapter 140, Section 157. This is a hearing. We are joined by our town council, Greg Corbo. I believe, Greg, the first thing that we need to do is we need to swear any witnesses in who are going to testify, right?
Yes, that's correct, Madam Chair.
Our town clerk is not here. Can you swear them in, Greg?
Sure. I can't see everyone in the same screen, but if everybody
Actually, I guess our town clerk is here, Greg, so she can do it.
Great.
Patty, so can you swear in? Okay, so I'm looking at Kristen, Kristen Hersher, our animal control officer, Amy Powers, Kate Hollister, and Peter Mahler. So can you swear those folks in?
Madam Moderator, I don't know if Jeremy Cohen is available.
Who's that town council?
Yep,
He's the
he is.
council.
Oh, he is. Yes, he is. He's listed as an attendee. Absolutely.
Yep.
Can we promote him, please?
Can you make him a panelist, please?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, good enough. Patty, can you swear the potentially 4 witnesses in? Patty, you're still muted.
And now I'm not.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Everybody raise your right hand. Do solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give is the truth and the whole truth?
Do.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, I believe, as the complainant, Ms. Powers, you go first.
Certainly, thank you. Again, my name is Amy Powers and I reside at 47 Vinebrook Road. I am a mother of 2 young children, a dog owner, and I do work in healthcare. I want it to be known that I have had a rescue dog in the past that had become aggressive. So I've had experience with this prior. My husband and I did everything we could to try to help this dog, but after it pulled me down, I realized that we were making other people feel uncomfortable and that we were not the right fit for this dog. And while we didn't euthanize the dog, we did return it to the rescue from which we got it in hopes that it could find a better home. So I am very sensitive to all animals, but I wanted that to be known that I've had experience with aggressive dogs in the past. I do feel compelled to bring this issue to the town for the safety of my children and other children of the Vinebrook community. And I do have support of many of my neighbors who are aware of this dog who is owned by Pete and Kate Hollister. I am asking for the dog to be removed from the neighborhood as I don't feel like the Vinebrook community is a place to have a known, unpredictable, dangerous dog. I do recognize that your time is limited, so I'm going to try to be as brief as I possibly can. I just want to set the stage of my community. I'm going to provide a brief history of some facts, and I will share some recent events and conclude with a synopsis of why I believe this neighborhood is not safe with this dog's residence in our community. As I shared in my letter to Mr. Heiderman, the Vinebrook community is a vibrant, extremely active, busy community with 80 homes and over 50 children. It's important to note there are children and young adults who are differently abled or are on the spectrum, autistic spectrum, who walk the neighborhood. And there are a significant amount of dogs and animals that live here as well. It's also important to note that there are children who walk their family's dogs throughout the neighborhood. What's important that you understand is that the Vinebrook community is a very modern community, but with a very vintage vibe. So parents respect and trust other parents of this, and the kids run free through the neighborhood. I mean, children as young as 3 and 4 run through people's yards and woods, and many parents don't know where their kids are, just like back in the day. However, a lot of us feel that our children are not really safe. There's also a significant event in talking about history that I feel is important to note that occurred in December of 2019. I want it to be known that the Hollister's previous dog, not their current
I want to
dog,
pause for a second, Madam Chair.
Yep.
I just want to pause for a second. She's talking about something for 2019. The notice I have for my clients, Jeremy Cohen for the dog owner, says this is a written complaint because Jenna allegedly broke free for being tied to a tree on your property. She's going into another dog incident?
I understand your concern. And honestly, Ms. Powers, we do have the incident report from 2019 as well. But this, this is a complaint about the dog that that is owned today. So I would like you to keep your comments to what happened with this dog. Okay.
Sure. So I discovered the Hollisters adopted Jenna, who was labeled as a diamond in the rough from Buddy Dog on December 17th, 2021. And since that time, it has bit 4 people and 2 dogs. Evidently, a diamond in the rough is a dog for a variety of reasons that has not been adopted in a timely manner or a reasonable amount of time, whether it's due to their breed or social and behavioral issues. So as you are aware, the incident that happened, I think it was on, well, there's 2 incidents that have been filed that I'm sure you are aware of. But there's also a letter from a member of the community, from a member in our community who tried to help socialize this dog, I believe after it was sent off for training and was bit in the arm and is now left with a scar. She was placing her arm out in front of the dog after the trainer said it was okay, and she was bit. It's also my understanding that the owners have pondered euthanizing the dog, and that is documented in the police report entered on 10/20/22, but they have decided against that per my conversation with the animal control officer. So there are really 3 variables here that are setting this our environment up for a potential another attack or a child from getting hurt or emotionally altered. Is that, you know, we have a known aggressive dog that has bit a human unprovoked, despite having gone through training. You know, the owners, I think, recognize this impact, but aren't, and I know they're taking means to put a muzzle on the dog. However, I don't think a muzzle is the answer to the situation. And we have an environment that provides ample opportunity for an accident to happen. As many as stated in our neighborhood, it's not a matter of something will happen, it's just a matter of when. My reality, which is shared by many people in our neighborhood, is that we're truly scared that something is going to happen to one of our children or to another animal. And the question is really, how many attacks or dog bites does it take to realize that something needs to be done? And that is why I am asking for the town to recognize this as a dangerous dog and to take action for the safety of the children and the animals of the Vinebrook community.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any from the board have any questions for Ms. Powers? I don't see any. Attorney Cohen, do you have any questions for her?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Ms. Powers, have you been approached by Jenna, the dog?
I have not been approached, no.
And you have your children been approached by Jenna, the dog?
No, they have not.
Do you have a dog?
I do.
Has your dog been approached by Jenna?
It has not.
And when you say muzzle is not the answer, what is your background in training in dog behavior to make that statement? I mean, muzzles are a $1 billion a year industry, and it's in the Massachusetts state law that one of the options is a muzzle. So why does Amy Powers think that a muzzle won't work?
Well, let's look at human behavior, right? So if you want to, in order to make sure that the community is completely safe, that muzzle needs to go on every single solitary time the dog leaves the house, right? And it needs to be put on appropriately. And if you take your dog out 3 times a day, that's over what, 365 days a year, you're looking at over 1,100 times you have to put a muzzle on a dog.
Okay, good point. Good point. And so that would mean that they've had the dog now for a year. So that would be 1,100 times that my clients have walked their dog, and not a single child has ever been approached by Jenna or scared. Not a single person has ever had Jenna run up on them and attack them. Your numbers of 4 are wrong. So none of these children who are running around the neighborhood in 1,100 opportunities, when Jenna didn't have a muzzle on, she now has a voluntary muzzle on, they put a muzzle on, in 1,100 opportunities, you're talking actually about 2 incidents that happened on their property, and you weren't there, right?
No, I was not there.
Okay.
Nope, but I
All
do
right.
have the police reports.
Thank you. I know you have the police reports. And I would just point out that one of the people you're referencing, it's not a police report. She came forward 6 months after just to say that she was bit, but that she didn't go to the doctor. Anyway, thank you. That was my question.
Attorney Corbo, on behalf of the town, do you have anything to ask?
Yes, Madam Chair, through you, it's not entirely clear to me who the 2 people and 4 dogs who have been bitten are. And I also see a note in the comment that my DO has been attacked by both dogs. I would be happy to speak on the subject. So, I mean, is there documentation that that I'm not aware of concerning other incidents? Because I'm only aware of the 2 incidents.
I believe, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I think we're aware of 2 incidents with this dog, Jenna, okay? And I do see in the comments as well that there are a couple of gentlemen who want to speak, and I will let you speak at a certain point. So Mr. Ennis and Mr. Castagano, I know both want to speak, as well as now a Mr. Feltry. So just keep your hands up and we will get to you. Okay, thanks. Kate and Peter, do you folks, do you guys want to say anything?
Andrea, before, I'm sorry to
Yep.
interrupt,
Yep.
but before you move on to the Hollisters, I would suggest that you hear from the animal control
Okay.
officer. And she may have information about these other incidents as well.
Okay, certainly. Kristen? You're still muted.
Hear me?
Yeah, now we can, yes.
Yeah, so I have two incidents with the dog on file. So
And can you just, for the record, can you just tell us the dates of those incidences and
Sure.
briefly what occurred?
Sure. So let's see. So the first one was July 11th, 2022, with Mr. Ennis, who resides at 44 Vinebrook. Jenna was walking across the street with her owners on leash, and the retriever belonging at 44 Vinebrook left his property, crossed the street to the sidewalk, and allegedly was acting in an aggressive manner and growling, which, Jenna then nipped the snout. I did not see any injuries at that time. The
Injuries
second-
to the dog, Kristen?
Injuries to the dog, right.
Okay.
The second incident was October 20th, the most recent, and that was one of the neighbors with her dog Evie was walking by the property. Jenna was tethered to a tree and snapped the lead from the tree and went after that dog twice. Once as she was walking by, and then they were turning the corner and went after her again. So with Jenna, I have those 2 incidents on file. No other incidents have been reported to me.
Okay. And I know you mentioned injuries with the first one. With the second one, were there injuries to the dog?
The dog did have injuries when I arrived on scene. Everyone had gone to the vet, and so I did not see the injuries myself.
Okay.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question
Yep.
through you?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Ms. Hirschler, have you had an opportunity to spend time with this dog, Jenna?
I have not spent time with her. I did, I met her once through a door. That was the first incident. The second time I went and touched base at the home and met Jenna. She was walking on leash with her owner with a muzzle on, and just wanted to, touch base after the incident. So briefly. five,
Mhm.
5, maybe 10 minutes.
And what was the dog's reaction to you at that time?
She, at first when I approached them, she tried to bark just as my dog would. And her owner said, sit, and she did. And, it was pretty non-eventful. So.
And was that on their property or on the street?
That was it was at the end of their driveway.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further, Madam Chair.
Attorney Cohen, do you have any questions for Ms. Hirschler?
ACO Herschel. Hi. So have you had a chance, well, you've had a chance to meet Jenna's owners,
Yes.
Peter and Kate. So we're here because of them. Can we trust them to put a muzzle on or whatever other remedies? So can you tell us, some owners I know some owners we can't rely on for that. What's your sense of Kate and Peter and their ability to continue with the training? Are you aware that the dog's in training?
I am. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so if you, just as you got to talk about the dog, can you share a little bit about them, please?
I mean, I haven't, sat down, have lengthy conversations again with them, but they seem very committed to doing whatever is needed to be done for Jenna. And my history with a lot of owners is they're, I mean, money is always, of course, an issue, and they definitely seem like they're willing to do what's needed as far as their time and money allows, which for me, I don't see that too often. I mean, trainers are really expensive, so I was pleased to hear that.
Do you know of these trainers, Boston Doctors?
So I've interacted with him before. He helped me out with a German Shepherd in the past, and with good result.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Ms. Hollister and Mr. Mahler, do either one of you want to say anything?
Madam Chair, Ms. Hollister may I just speak briefly?
Sure.
Thank you. So we're here tonight about Jenna and about Kate and Peter. So I've come to know them, and I know the things that they're doing with Jenna. And my concern is this evening that we just focus on this dog, not the history of rescue dogs, not anybody else's history of having a rescue dog, but what these two people are doing with Jenna. And the incident where a dog got off leash and approached their dog. So this is the July 2022 incident. I mean, it's known with Riley, this golden retriever, and with Jenna, there's just a relative dislike. I mean, they're aware of each other because we do walk past there. But this particular night, I mean, Riley was off leash on his property, but also was supposed to be at least under voice control. I mean, you can't have dogs just leaving their property. So Riley, the golden retriever, leaves his property. Kate and her husband were walking the dog. They can see from a distance Riley's on the property, so they understand it. They take evasive action. They start to cross the street. Still, the owners, whoever was out there with Riley, doesn't control Riley. Riley goes across the street, and Riley gets bit on the snout after some growling. I mean, that's what a dog who's being approached might do. I don't think that is terribly unreasonable. They tried to keep Jenna away from all this. They can't account for dogs being off leash when there's a leash on and not being under voice control. Luckily, there were no injuries there. And but so that's an incident is kind of insulting to people who really have incidents, because Jenna was just there with her owners. And then, but the most recent incident that gave rise to tonight, I mean, the problems there are Jenna was tied to a tree. and that with some type of a mechanism that broke. Well, that's not a good way to have a dog outside anyway. If you're going to have a tie out, it's going to be a real tie out that goes into the ground and can swivel. So that was a mistake there, and Kate definitely admits to that mistake. And it happened on the outskirts of their property. There's not an excuse that shouldn't happen either, just like a dog shouldn't get off its property. But luckily, again, no significant injuries. In the person whose finger or hand was bit there, when you intervene in the dog fight, even though all of us will do it to protect our dog, you are not the intended target. You're not, that doesn't mean there's human aggression because your hand gets bit when you're trying to save your dog. So in none of these cases has a human been an intended target in these two incidents. And I just think my clients are already showing commitment to take this serious. Tonight, and you'll hear from their trainers. So they've been going to training, and training is an ongoing process. You don't just say, well, the dog was trained a few months ago, so it must be fine. They know it's an ongoing process. Since this last incident, they've seen their trainer 5 times, and they go to his facility and he socializes the dog. The issue for Jenna is socializing with other dogs. The other dogs are triggers for her. And the thing is, it's not every dog. So it's about how to teach the owners and Jenna to be desensitized to other dogs, and trainers can do that. You know, Ms. Powers said, well, she and her husband did everything they could for their dog. And I understand that, but my clients haven't done everything that can be done yet. There's many tools available to them. So it's too soon to say this dog is certainly never going to be rehabilitated from this trigger it has, that it can't be desensitized to that. They've already put on a muzzle. They've done it right. And they've done it consistently, and that's voluntarily. And they've engaged this trainer more often than needed, and that's voluntarily. So in terms of being engaged, they're engaged in trying to make the community feel safe, trying to have their dog be in a position of success, and making sure that they get better, they become better managers of their dog. I mean, we can all be better managers of our dog tomorrow than we are today. So what we're looking at tonight is certainly something happens. Certainly they take accountability. I mean, my client, you hear, she reached out to the dog owners in both instances and said, I'll pay the vet bill, but nobody got back to them. So she still sent checks to each of them. They haven't cashed them, but she didn't know how much the bills were, but she still said, I want to do the right thing. And they continue to do the right thing. And I just hope the board can recognize that in one sense, if you were to consider that Jenna is a nuisance dog, and a nuisance dog is a dog that it reacts and can harm another dog or a person, but its reaction to that dog or person is not grossly disproportionate. So the reaction to Riley, the golden retriever, with a couple of bites or scratches on the snout was not grossly disproportionate to the fact that all Jenna sees is this dog coming at her and her family. So she is certainly a dog who can be in a position to protect herself or her family. If you were to deem Jenna a nuisance, the board is, as Attorney Corbell may tell you, the board has a wider range of things that you can put in place. For instance, if you deem the dog,
we know that, and our attorney's going to will advise us of that. So I'm going to ask you to wrap up your statement to us, because I've got other people who want to speak, and we need to move this along.
And I'm happy to move that along. I mean, I'm happy to move that along, even though, you know, I sat here for my hour waiting, but I appreciate you letting me speak, and that you will consider that the dog as a nuisance, and I will finish this sentence. You have the power to order training, and clearly training is what this dog needs, along with a muzzle. If you were to deem it dangerous or remove it from the town, the way some people have asked, I don't think you get to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Kate can speak next if you'd like her to.
I would actually, yes.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to say that when we walk Jenna, she's always on a leash. We never let her off the leash. I walk her in the mornings down the street. Sometimes there are school children there. I see walkers there, other dogs, and thanks to the training she heals really well, and she just stays by my side. She ignores the people, she ignores the other dogs, she ignores the children. So she's not acting aggressively towards anybody when she's on the walks. In fact, Ms. Powers' dog, Charlie, sometimes is out on his front yard and barking, and happened this week, and she just ignores Charlie. So it's not that she is intentionally looking to be mean. And as our attorney Cohen said, and Ms. Kirschler, we've said that we're willing to put a muzzle on her all the time in town, and that's what we've been doing since the second incident. The second incident, a slight correction, she was on a metal lead that was tied to a tree. And so she was on the lead when Edie first came to her. I didn't see it. I just reacted when I heard her owner yelling. And then it was my fault having her too close to the road. And then I didn't calm her down enough. And what happened was I let go of her collar, and that's when she broke her collar and went at the dog the second time. And so I've talked with the owner about it and apologized, and we both recognized that it was my carelessness that had caused it, and I've learned a lesson.
Thank you. Anybody from the board have any questions? John?
May I address Kate directly? Kate, when you adopted that dog from Buddy Dog, is that just a kennel, or do they foster dogs? And then how old was the dog when you adopted him or her?
It's a humane society, so a lot of the dogs are strays or rescues. She was a rescue from Houston that came up. Age not really known right now. She's somewhere between 3.5, 4.5. We don't know.
So when you got her, she was relatively untrained?
We don't know because we don't know her history. We did know that she had been with a foster family, and the foster family said they had children. She was fine with the family. They said she was okay with dogs because we knew that was an important thing. So when we first got her, within the first 2 months that we had her, she was actually attacked by three neighborhood dogs that were loose. So we think that's part of this problem, that it's causing a reaction because she's been attacked actually 4 times now by loose dogs.
Well, I've been bit by dogs before, and I know what a vicious dog looks like, and I've seen the dog fight. And
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't growl at people, and
yeah, okay. I'm just curious about the training, and how you continue to train her?
yes, we are. Yeah. I have photos of her in the last sessions. Unfortunately, because of the delay, I don't know if either one of our trainers is available. There's one, Alam, I always forget his last name.
Is it Alan Cruzada?
Cruzada, yeah. He's
actually he is online.
So I don't know if you want to make him a panelist and swear him in.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Kate. Appreciate that.
Madam Chair, through you,
Yep.
before we move on, can I just ask Ms. Hollister a couple questions?
Yes, I was going to ask you if you wanted to.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Hollister. So one question I have, or questions, is with regard to keeping the dog outside in your yard. You talked about precautions you're willing to take with respect to walking the dog on the leash, but what about when the dog is outside in the yard? Do you have a fenced area, or are you going to continue to keep it tied up to the tree? What are your plans for that?
We're on a corner lot, so it's really hard. We don't have a backyard, so fencing is not really a good option. And we've talked this over, and we both agreed that we won't tie her up that in the backyard, that the only time she'll be in the backyard is if she's on a leash with us under our direct control.
And what kind of dog is this? Do you know, or about?
A mix.
Some kind of, mix. I mean, obviously she's got some pit bull in her.
Okay. And so if the only time the dog is outside is when you have it on the leash, is that enough exercise for the dog in a day?
Yes, she's really a homebody. She'd rather be on the couch. But yes, no, because I walk her 45 minutes an hour in the morning. She gets a half-hour afternoon walk, and then we walk her again at late afternoon, and then we take her out briefly at night. So yeah, she walks like 4 or 5 miles a day.
And what is do you right now have a contract in place for continuing on this training for a period of time, or is it open-ended? What are your plans for the training?
Well, we initially had a contract for the initial training, and then our dog trainer guarantees all follow-ups. So now we're in the follow-up phase of that training.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further, Madam Chair.
Anita, you have your hand up, so.
Yeah, I have 2 questions, and one is actually for the trainer. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm sure you've been waiting for a long time, but I have a question about progress of the dog and training over time, and just kind of your assessment of that.
So
Actually, before you speak, I need to have you sworn in as a witness. So
Sure.
Patty, could you swear him in, please?
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes, I do.
And could you just state your name for the record so we have it?
Sure. Alan Perzana.
Okay. And if you could just, before answering Anita's question, just tell us, who you are, your engagement with Ms. Hollister and Mr. Mahler, and a little bit about your background and experience as a trainer, okay?
Sure. So I work as a dog trainer. I work with Boston Doctor, and I've worked with them for roughly 4 years now. I've worked with a lot of different types of behavior issues with dogs, aggressive behaviors, dog aggression, human aggression. I've worked with dog reactivity. I've worked strictly on obedience and different types of leash training. So I have a decent amount of experience regarding knowing and when to spot different types of aggression. And Jenna, personally, I've worked with her for several months now. I know she's actually been with us a little bit longer, but me personally, I've worked with her for several months. And over the time that I've worked with her alone, she's made significant progress. When I first started working with her, she wasn't too comfortable. I'm guessing due to her background or history, she wasn't too comfortable being touched or controlled or manipulated. But over time, we've gotten to the point where I can essentially manipulate her body in any way, motion her, move her. We've also worked tremendously on her obedience, so she listens very well to negative markers and positive markers. If she's off leash, for example, even, and I give her a negative marker, if I see her misbehaving, she will listen to that. And when she's at our facility, we've gotten her down to pretty much zero reactivity towards other dogs. So we're able to work her around other dogs at our facility, and she has no reactivity towards them, no aggression towards them, and no aggression towards the other people working at our facility either, not me personally or not anyone else. So the only really the main issue comes down to generalization with dogs, and she's made significant progress with us. The rest is just comes down to generalization and essentially progressing her to other environments as well and teaching her in other environments as well. But her basic foundation for training has already been established. She knows the basic communication, obedience, and her behavior is really good right now. But it's just really transitioning to other environments. And we took her to a park, I believe last weekend, where we walked her around other dogs, and she actually did very well around the other dogs too.
Anita, did you have any other questions or not? Okay. I guess let me ask both Attorney Corbo and Attorney Cohen if either one of them have any questions for the trainer. Attorney Cohen? You're muted. You're muted, sir.
I do, but Attorney Corbo, if you want to go first, please go right ahead.
Thank you through you, Madam Chair. So I guess my only questions are, you described how the dog behaves with you and listens to you. What is your experience with observing how the dog interacts with the Hollisters and how the dog listens to them and behaves around them, since they're the ones who are going to have to care for the dog going forward?
Yeah, it's pretty standard that whenever we train dogs, they almost always behave better with us than their own owners, primarily because they don't have as much of a history with us, where the only history they have is us training them. So they understand from day one with us that they really have to be disciplined and on their best behavior. And we don't really end the training. In fact, we never consider it finished. But just because they're done training with us doesn't mean they're done training with the owner. We have to really transition to the owners as well and getting the same behaviors. So initially, when they first started working with Jenna around other dogs, I could get the results very well. It was a matter of them getting the results. And now we've gotten to the point where she behaves similarly at our facility as she does with me, just as she does with them around other dogs. As well as their own environment, I personally don't know, because I haven't really walked her around their own environment around other dogs, but from what I've seen so far, she behaves just as well with me as she will with them.
And do you have a plan to continue on to provide more training to the owners themselves, or training of the dog and the owners together?
Absolutely. We don't consider the training finished until we're both satisfied with it. I don't think Jenna has actually reached her maximum potential. I think she still has some ways to go. So she can definitely improve. I think she's in a very good spot right now. And same with the Hollisters. I think they're very good at, much better equipped at working with her in terms of controlling her as well. But there's still ways to go, and we're still going to continue training with her.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have nothing further.
Just have a question. Alam, you talked about the behavior at your facility and how you're starting to now see her behavior is the same with you as it is with the Hollisters. So is that because you can do a lot, but is it because they're doing their homework? I mean, can you tell each time you see Jenna in between visits? I'm certain you give the Hollisters, here's everything that's working and here's what you have to work on. And I would assume you can tell if somebody's done their homework or not. And the truth is how the dog reacts. So can you speak to that to see, again, is Kate and Peter, are Kate and Peter trainable, I guess we say?
Yeah, they are very trainable. We can definitely tell when owners have done their homework, typically by how the dog, usually we consider it a relapse when we let the dog go back to their owners, and the dog begins to relapse on its behavior and will eventually take the dog back and rework with them. With Jenna, we honestly haven't had a relapse, and anytime she comes to our facility, and when I work with her personally after she comes back, when they bring her back, she still seems to be on top of her training, and they seem to do a good job with it too. They understand pretty well what they're supposed to do, and they do a good job with it.
And you are aware of what happened recently with Jenna getting off her mental lead?
I have some knowledge of it. I don't know the in-depth, but I from what I remember, another dog ran up to her and provoked her, but she was chained, and Jenna managed to break loose from her lead. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I have just one follow-up question. I know you mentioned that Jenna is doing very well at your facility, being around dogs, and that her training is progressing well. you don't have any knowledge about how she's doing in the neighborhood. As part of the training program that you provide, at some point, will you go out to the Hollister's property and work with the dog at their property and in their neighborhood?
Absolutely. We do that already. In fact, I've already done it once with them. Well, I've attempted it once with them. And the issue was there's not always usually people or dogs around to work around. So it's easy for us to work with them in our facility because we always have people and dogs available. But in different environments, it comes down to an issue of whether there are people walking their dogs, which is why I mentioned the park area where we took her to a park near us. And yes, we walked by many dogs and people, and she actually was really well behaved in that instance.
Thank you. Okay, I have 3 people in the audience who have been patiently waiting, and I'm going to turn to them. So the first one is Timothy Ennis, who has had his hand up. So if we could unmute Mr. Ennis, please. Mr. Ennis, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Before you speak, you need to be sworn in. So Patty, could you swear him in, please?
Sure. Would you raise your right hand, Mr. Ennis, even though I can't see you? I'm assuming it's raised.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Can't see me either. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Would you like to make a statement, sir?
Yes, I would, actually. I've lived in Vinebrook for 22 years now. Known Kate and Pete for that entire time. They're great people. My concern is the dog, you know, and we've talked about this before. We've had reports. The animal control officer mentioned, didn't see any wounds. Well, the incident on July, my daughter was bit and had to get a tetanus shot. My dog was bit, received 5 stitches in his face. So that right there, the fact that the comments where he was growling towards the dog, 80 homes in his neighborhood will tell you my dog has never growled in his life. He is the most docile, absolutely docile golden retriever that, Kate and Pete could have stepped in if my dog was running towards their dog in a friendly, stupid fashion, which he does every day, and they've known for 6.5 years, they could have prevented that. But the situation was my 19-year-old daughter was tearing their dog's mouth off of my dog's face while they stood there. And the comments in that redacted statement where they were trying to pull the dog away, and according to multiple witnesses, that was not the case. But the point is, my concern is more not the dog so much, but their ability to control this dog. Kate willingly admitted moments ago that, she couldn't handle the dog, and that's why the dog bit the second dog, the second incident, a second time. I witnessed several times where she does not have the strength to hold these dogs. They're strong. I get it. My dog's 106 pounds. He's strong. These dogs are 50, 60, 70 pounds. They're bred for that kind of strength and aggressiveness. I've witnessed 2 days ago, as a matter of fact, yesterday, that walking down the street, dog had her muzzle on, I should say, and was still acting aggressively towards other dogs. I'm having comments about the training. The training is great. I know the dog has been through several bouts of 30-day training, but I'm witnessing the results, and the results are not impressive at this point. So these people don't live in this neighborhood with children. I hope to God something doesn't happen. We talk about past experience. We don't want to talk about previous dogs. I get it. The whole point is not the dogs. It's the ability to handle the dogs. And if these dogs lived on a 40-acre ranch, that'd be one thing. They don't. They live in a neighborhood with a bunch of children. And God forbid the next time, and there will be a next time. It's been 12 months. This dog has had 5 incidents in 12 months. My fear is it's going to be somebody's child. And if it was mine, it would be a disaster. And I think the point of this meeting is to let the town know and the owners know that, there's a liability issue. God forbid that it happens to a kid, let alone to them. It turns on them.
Okay,
I'm 60 years old. I don't know if I can handle that dog if it turned on me. We've got 70, 80 houses, 190 people and 35 dogs. And there's no dog in the neighborhood that's a problem with other dogs and kids than this dog. It's just a pattern. Don't care what kind of training you get. You
okay,
live it.
Mr. Ennis, you've made your
watch.
points and we understand them, okay?
Okay, good.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Cas, I can't say, but Mr. Castano?
Castagno.
Thank you. I'm sorry I botched your name.
I have a hard time myself with it. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Patty, could you swear him in, please, as well?
Sure. Will you raise your right hand, please?
Oh, I am. Go ahead.
Okay. You solemnly swear that you will, the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. But my name is Joe Castagno. I've lived in Vine Brook for 40 years this year. And I've known Pete and Kate ever since they moved in. I've seen both of their dogs. I used to take care of their other dog every once in a while. The dogs both have a mind of their own. This one does too. I was upstairs one morning and I heard screaming outside and I was wondering what was going on. I looked out the window and there was Jenna attached to a collie she had it by the back of the neck. And Kate couldn't do anything because the dog wasn't going to let go. The lady that owned the dog was trying to get her hands in there to get the dog to let go. And I believe she got bit. I wasn't right there. I don't know. And then one of my neighbors, Paul Feltry, his daughter, I believe, came over and asked if she could help. And Kate said, yeah. And they ended up getting the dog unattached from the little collie. So yeah, I've had experience with dogs. I'm a former police officer with the city of Cambridge. I was a canine officer for about 8 years. And I know what it is to be bitten by a dog too, okay? Not my own, but someone else's. And I've seen Kate with the dog and the dog is too strong for her. She can't handle it. Her last dog made her fall so bad, she shattered her wrist. She doesn't walk the dog walks her. And the dog goes where it wants to go. Now, training can help. I know that. All right. They're going to have to keep it up because when the dog comes home, if they're easy on the dog's going to just forget it all and do what it wants to do. What I'm afraid of is, and I believe the attorney said, well, the person that got bit was not the intended target. If a little child is in front of that dog and that dog wants to get to that other dog, he's going to bite that child and could possibly kill that child. The child's small enough. Okay. It's like me chasing a bad guy and I go to shoot the bad guy and I shoot somebody's kid. Well, it wasn't my target, but it's an unfortunate incident. We don't want that in this neighborhood. There are a lot of children here. There are a lot of dogs here. And this, to tell you the truth, I've only heard of one dog ever that's had problems. And it's their dog. It's just the type of dog they get. Maybe they need a French poodle or a Chihuahua or something. But
Okay, all right, we're not going there.
I know, but I think really seriously, I think that the town knowing about this, I don't know what your liability would be, but I wouldn't want to be you if the dog kills somebody. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And lastly, Paul Feltry has his hand up, so if we could unmute him. Nope. Mr. Feltry, are you there?
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Feltry?
Sorry about that. I was muted.
No worries. Patty, could you swear him in, please?
Sure, if you'll raise your right hand, Mr. Feltry. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. So if you could just identify yourself and then you can give your statement.
Hi, nice to see you all, and thank you for the board for your time, allowing me to say a few words. My name's Paul Feltry. I live in 23 Vinebrook Road, so I live right next door to Pete and Kate, and similar to Joe, I've been on this street for about 40 years. The Feltry, or the Jennifer Feltry that worked with Kate to attempt to pull Jenna off the sheltie, wasn't a collie, it's a small sheltie, is my daughter, and she was working in the backyard at the time. I heard some screaming. I went, and this is the incident that occurred in October. I heard some screaming and went to the front door, and my daughter Jen was helping Yen Ru, who's a resident of the street. She owns a collie, a sheltie named Evie, and she was quite bloody. She had blood all over her glasses, her hands. She was shaking, and the dog had blood on her as well. The woman, quite frankly, was fairly hysterical. She asked if she could get cleaned up. Of course you can. Come on over. My wife diligently called the ambulance that came down and looked at the cut on the individual's hand. So I was a witness, a direct witness to the after the fact. Both the dog and the lady that got injured as well. Reason why I felt obligated to talk today is the fact that I'm a granddad. I've got 4 beautiful granddaughters, aged 1 up to age 7. I'm concerned. Jenna has had that woman on the ground, and she's a woman. She's not a 1-year-old toddler playing in the front yard. I really think the dog in this neighborhood is a liability. Having said that, I appreciate the training. I know Peter, I know Kate, and I know they're great people. I appreciate the trainings and efforts they've made. They've been extensive. I think somebody said, and maybe it was the trainer, the dog's been away for 30-day stints. But notwithstanding that training, this incident happened. And again, it happened inclusive of an adult. And God forbid, as Mr. Enos said, if it had been a young child. And there's plenty of them on this street. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give Ms. Powers an opportunity to speak once more. I'm going to give Ms. Hollister and Mr. Mahler an opportunity to speak once more, and then I'm going to turn it over to our town council to instruct us as to what we can do tonight and what the options are available for the board. So, Ms. Powers.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, everyone certainly appreciates all the efforts and the training that the Hollisters are doing. I just want to ask if there is on file a letter that has been written by a member of our community that was bit.
Ma'am, if that's passed and not related to Jenna.
No, it's from Jenna. She was bit by Jenna. It was a letter written to Eric Heiderman by Ann Nogler. There should have been a letter
Well, here, hang on a minute and we'll find out. Because Eric is out there in the background. Eric, have you seen such a letter?
Everything we received, I thought I put into the packet, but I can double check if you want to give me a couple minutes.
Sure, thanks so much.
I'm seeing Anita saying it's in there.
It is in there. Okay, there you go. Yes, we have it.
Okay, so I just want it to be known that the dog did bite an individual completely unprovoked.
Again, I am going to interrupt here for a second.
No,
because-
you're not. No,
Yes,
you're
I
not.
am.
You,
I
no,
am.
you're, excuse me, sir.
Your
I run
hearing
this
notice is
meeting.
about
I
one
run this,
incident.
I run this meeting.
Then you should
can
shut her
speak
up.
when she's finished, okay? And if you're
You
not
shouldn't
going to be
able to do
quiet,
this.
if you're not going to be quiet, you know, you'll get muted. You can speak afterwards, but you cannot interrupt her. That's how we run our meetings.
I just want to make sure that the letter has been read because it does pertain to this particular dog. So that I just wanted to make sure that that was on the record.
It is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Now, Mr. Cohen, if you'd like to say something, you may.
Thank you. I'll say what I said before, which you agreed with earlier, that there's a letter for the hearing tonight that talks about the October incident, and that's why we're here. So I know Ms. Powers wants to pile on to try to eliminate the dog from the neighborhood, but I'm just saying the notice wasn't about this. If that person had a bite or something significant, then it should have been reported. It would have been, if it was a bite, it would have been reported to animal control as required by any doctor or animal inspector. So it wasn't, if there was a bite, it wasn't anything that registered or required medical attention, but we didn't hear that part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hollister and Mr. Mahler, do you, as I said, you also had the opportunity to say one last thing.
Thank you. I mean, the Feltries are our neighbors. I've been out in the backyard with Jenna when their dog's in their backyard, and she totally ignores their dog. She ignores when their grandkids are out there. Mr. Ennis, his daughter got bit when she was trying to separate the dogs, yes. And he was incorrect because we grabbed Jenna's collar, and this is the Riley incident, and we did take efforts to pull her off. My husband grabbed the collar because he's stronger and taller than I am, and twisted her ear and got her to disengage fairly quickly. I think I'm strong enough to handle this dog. She's not like our last dog. She's not as strong, and she does heel with me. She doesn't lunge. And he's claiming that she was I don't know, going towards another dog or so. She was barking at a dog near his house. I corrected her. She stopped barking. So, and the incident in the letter was a training session, and it didn't happen the way that the woman has it in that letter. So she did not. She was not injured at the time. There was no blood. The dog just grabbed her. She asked if she could pet the dog. We were with the trainer, and there were like several dogs and people around. She reached towards the dog. She didn't put out her hand. She just reached towards the dog, and at that point the dog did a control maneuver, I guess you call it, whatever, and she was immediately taken back, and actually the dog trainer who was there is still on, and he can talk about that.
Actually, since as your attorney has pointed out, this is not part of this. This is not part of this.
So I'm just saying that there have been exaggerations in some of the things that a lot of the things that people have been talking about.
I just want to add that this dog has always been leashed. The dog's never been off leash. She's always been on leash. She's never shown aggression towards a person in the neighborhood. You know, she barks sometimes when she's on the property. As far as the Feltries go, they have their dog in their backyard and constantly barks at us. And our dog just shows no aggression towards her at all, just doesn't pay attention to her. So, I mean, this dog has never been loose. It's always been on a leash. We voluntarily, after the last incident, have muzzled her. But she's never shown aggression towards people. It's, you know, crazy. I mean, she's not always dog friendly, but she's never shown aggression towards people. And the trainers will tell you that.
Thank you. All right. Greg.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. So at this point in time, you know, it's time for the board to deliberate and make a decision. And you have two things that you have to decide. First, are you going to declare the dog to be a nuisance dog or a dangerous dog, or are you going to take no action? If you decide that the dog is a nuisance or dangerous dog, then you have a second question to answer, which is what remedy should you impose to abate the nuisance or the danger? So, you know, the evidence that you heard here is, you know, there's some dispute as to how many incidents have occurred, but we do have two verified incidents. One incident, it was clear that the dog in question was being held on a leash by its owner, and the second dog left its yard, entered the street without being leashed or attended by its owner, approached this dog and was bitten. The second incident occurred while the dog was on its property. It was chained to a tree. It appears that the dog somehow broke the chain, ran after this other dog and bit the dog. So, you know, both of these incidents meet the literal definition of dangerous dog, because the dog, without justification, at least on the second incident, attacked a person or domestic animal, causing physical injury or death. And none of the exceptions would occur here. As to that second incident in October, the dog was not protecting or defending itself. The person was not attacking or threatening the dog. The person was not teasing the dog or entering the dog's enclosure. But that being said, the definition of nuisance dog also, you know, includes certain threats or attacks, but that those threats or attacks are not disproportionate under the circumstances. And that phrase is not very well defined, but, you know, my interpretation is that it's really a matter of degree. And, you know, a dangerous dog is a dog that acts in a manner that, you know, really constitutes a danger based on its behavior. You know, it attacks without provocation. It causes serious injury. And it's in a circumstance where, you know, the owner is not exercising any appropriate dominion or control, versus a nuisance dog, you know, might still bite someone or bite another dog, but it's more of something that is accidental or more minor in nature. So, you know, I think the first thing you should think about here is, you know, based on the evidence that you heard and based on the reported incidents, do you believe that this dog is a nuisance dog or a dangerous dog? And then once you make that decision, then we can talk a little bit more about what your options for remedy are.
Okay, great, thank you. Scott.
I actually had a question, which I'm not sure who it goes. I guess this probably goes to Kate and Pete, but we've been focusing on training and behavior. Has Jenna seen a vet, and you know, are there medications that could be prescribed that would deal with her anxiety issues or whatever maybe is causing this behavior?
That's a good question. the last time she saw the vet was in January when she had her first vet visit, and probably the only vet visit. But she's due in the next month, so I was going to ask that if there's any kind of medication to calm her down.
Okay. Scott, did you have any follow-up question, or was that it?
No, that was, I guess we were sort of focusing on behavior, which is, appropriate. But without knowing the dog's history, if she has, had some past trauma, maybe that meds will help with the training and get her there, a little bit more docile faster. That's all I was thinking. But I'm not a vet or a trainer. Just asking the question.
Okay. So, Attorney Cohen, are you sort of waving at me because you want to say
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, but I'm trying to be, I'm looking for the raise your hand thing, but there it is. Just before you close it, if I could just say one thing. Building on what Attorney Corbo said, in the reports that I'm reading from animal control and the police reports, if there was a bite or scratch or anything, I just keep seeing either it didn't require, to the dogs didn't require any veterinary care, or they chose not to go to the vet, or they did go to the vet, but it was minor. And same with a minor wound to the finger. So I'm seeing minor things. I think if there was and again, my clients tried to pay the vet bills, but they weren't told. Like we don't know how big the vet bills were, or even if they went to the vet. But I think that if they were significant, we would know about that, because that would help the agenda for the people that want to have the dog removed. So I just think that the vet bills are probably relatively insignificant, reflective of what the animal control officer's report says, unless you have something in your packet that is the vet record or something like that. But I haven't seen anything like that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So do we want to declare this dog a dangerous dog or a nuisance dog? Tom?
So with respect for everyone who spoke and shared their experience, we kind of have these two incidents before us in a formal way. So I feel like that's the thing that I would feel obliged to react to. In the past, we've taken usually this in stages and steps. I definitely think we need to impose some sort of conditions of restraint on the dog whenever it's outside of its house. But at this point, based on what was in the two reports we saw, I believe I'm in favor of declaring a nuisance dog and then having a muzzle and on leash requirement at all times outside of their house. That seems like a proportionate response to what we've seen so far in the actual exhibits that were provided.
Other comments on the board? Scott?
I guess we're inclined to agree with Tom, because we have one of these two incidents in front of us, but we also, unfortunately, this is not our first dangerous dog hearing, right? And we've had dogs in town that were truly dangerous that we've, in one case actually ordered euthanized. So, on the scale of behavior that I've seen over these hearings, this is absolutely requires some action. I'm not quite sure it's at the dangerous dog level, but it's absolutely a nuisance dog. So, as Tom said, inclined to go in stages and, make some recommendations to make sure that if it does act out, that it can't do any real harm, such as a muzzle.
Okay. I think, John?
Yeah, I agree with Tom and Scott. I think a nuisance dog and with the muzzle and maybe some special leash or something, double or whatever they have there that would provide better control of the dog.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, go ahead, Anita. No.
I know I haven't had the same amount of experience of, dangerous dog hearings. I feel lucky for that. But this does feel a little bit more severe than at least some of the other dog hearings that we've had in the past. And so if we do lean towards nuisance dog, I agree with everyone else that there needs to be conditions and stuff in place. But I definitely feel like we've heard from people in the community and we've received letters about how there are multiple families who are very scared of this dog. And it's not just one person. It's not just the person who was attacked. And I know we have the 2 incidences and stuff in front of us, and I appreciate the trainer's input that, he felt like there was a lot more training that you do with her, that he's going to be doing more training and stuff around the neighborhood. But the fact that, Kate and Peter, you can't have a fence around your yard, and then you have, a neighbor with children, grandchildren coming in, that's a real concern for me, for the people who are in that neighborhood. So I don't quite have an answer yet of how I think those conditions should be, but I hate the idea of, that I'm sorry, but that Kate, if this dog is too strong, that you can't control her. What does that mean? Right. And at what level of training is it okay to be oh, she doesn't need any more training? I don't know. It's just questions, I guess.
Scott?
Actually, that was a question I wanted to ask, which maybe it's for the trainer, but or maybe it's for Kirsten, but there's various ways to leash a dog, and commonly you've got the standard collar with a leash on it, but there are harnesses that you can put in the dog, which gives you a lot more control over the dog. And does that I don't know if those are better or worse. I would defer to the experts, but does a choker collar give you more control? I know it's got issues of cruelty or not, but rather than just a conventional collar, are there other ways to leash this dog to give Kate a little bit more leverage, given her size?
May I just, I
Before
don't
you
really
speak,
have
Kate,
any
1
problem.
second, Kate, before you speak, Kate.
I'm sorry.
before you
Hello,
speak, Kate.
wait, hello, folks. Okay, people get to speak when I say they can speak. Okay, let me just tell you. So, if you
we were
don't
in
want, wait a
person,
minute,
I would have stopped her.
Mr. Cohen, if you would let me finish. Okay, what I was going to say is if you would like to speak before your client does, I'm certainly willing to hear you do that. Okay. And please, please respect this process.
So, Kate, the 2 questions, without going much deeper than this, okay, the 2 questions are, because a harness makes a huge difference in
Sir,
controlling a dog. So
come on.
are you willing?
Okay,
You just
ahead.
told me I could speak. So, are you talking to me?
I don't need a long introduction. Ask your question.
If we were together, I would have a conversation with her sitting right next to me. So here's what I'm asking her. Have you considered, or will your trainer work with you to A, put a harness on, and B, this idea of going to the vet to see about medication? Are those 2 things that you'll commit to? Because have you tried a harness? A harness makes a big difference. Is that something you try and work with the trainer on?
One, going to the vet, yes, I'm definitely plan on doing that. We had a harness on the dog actually when we first got her, and the owner of Boston Dog Tour is available, but he told us not to use that. He has us use, it's not really, I guess, a training collar, the choke collar. And so he feels that that's better for correcting things, and that's what we've been using. He is listening to all of this, so we're happy to talk with him and get his assessment of, is another type of restraint better or not. I personally, I don't have a problem. She's not that strong.
How much does she weigh, Kate?
60, but
The dog officer can,
Okay, yeah, all right. You know what?
That's the dog.
Here's what I
I
want to do.
mean, but she's not a strong, muscular type of 60.
Okay, everybody stop. Here's what I want to do. We're going back to the deliberations of the board, okay?
So yeah, so I am willing to talk about medication, and I am willing to talk with the dog, with our trainers.
Okay,
That's it.
I think based on what I'm hearing from the board members, it sounds like that and I do agree with my fellow board members, it sounds like we have an agreement that the dog, that we should declare the dog a nuisance dog. The issue then becomes, what conditions are we going to impose upon the dog and or the owners, both? I am not an expert. I don't know whether harness works or not. I don't think any of the board members can testify, or have the expertise or knowledge to know what's best. Is it a harness? Is it a particular kind of leash? Is it a collar? I think that that's something that we need to leave for the experts. One of the things, Kirsten, since you're still here.
Yep, I'm here.
In your experience, would you have experience in terms of what equipment and that's the best word I can come up with, between a collar, a leash, a harness, or whatever, works best in trying to control a dog?
I mean, I'm not a dog trainer. I think it depends on the dog. I would definitely go by what the trainer says. As far as that, I don't believe that is one of the choices in the law, as far as if the dog is deemed. I don't know if there's harness in there. I don't know. Jeremy might know, I'm sure, more about that. But yeah, I would definitely refer to the trainer for that. I've seen a lot of different pieces of equipment work for different dogs, and I don't think I've been around her enough to give a good opinion.
Is there a particular muzzle that the dog should be using?
Well, the muzzle she's using now is a basket muzzle, and that is typically the muzzle of choice.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Who did I do? Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, Greg.
No, that's okay. So first off, I would suggest that the board, before you go too far down the remedy discussion, take a vote on the issue of whether or not it's a nuisance or a dangerous dog. And then, as to the sort of the safety measures, if that's where you're going to go, I would probably suggest that you not be too specific, but rather that we come up with some more general language that, maybe says a leash, a muzzle, and, such other safety equipment that is necessary to ensure control of the dog. Because, you don't want to be dictating exactly what devices are used here, but you just want to make sure that they have something in addition to the muzzle and leash to ensure that this dog is always under control.
Okay. So, Anita, I saw you had your hand up before. Greg, did you want to ask say something?
Yeah, we're making an assumption, and also I'm not a veterinary professional, right? That this dog may be a possible candidate for medications. We have no idea. So the vet could say no, that's not. So I don't want to go off with the assumption that might be one of the remedies. And I feel like it should really be what we know or what we don't know, which around training. And I know that Pete and Kate, you talked about how fencing isn't an option, but I was just trying to think about, have you, like, it's not an option at all? Is there something to consider in terms of, like, when I'm looking at the options of our nuisance and dangerous dog remedies, there's something about confined spaces, and I'm trying to understand what that is other than your house.
Yeah, well, the dog, the dog's just not out in the yard. We just walk her on the leash, so we don't put her out in the yard anymore. And besides that, we don't want to put up a fence because we're going to be moving out of the neighborhood in the spring. And so it would just be a waste of time putting a fence up.
Plus, it's hard finding.
So
those.
through you, Madam Chair, to Anita. So I think what they mean is that you could have something like a kennel that is not a fence that surrounds the entire yard, but is something that is surrounded on all four sides, that the dog could be in and could be loose without being able to get out. And they have all different types of prefab kennels that you could put within your property that does not encompass the whole entire yard. Sometimes they're also referred to as like a dog run. So it's something, some of them can even be temporary in nature where you can put it up and then move it or take it down or something like that. But what I'm hearing from the owners is that they are not interested in keeping the dog outside unattended or unleashed. So I would wonder whether some feature like that would be necessary if they're willing to commit to that condition.
That's fine, but like I said, we have no reason to put her outside. She really doesn't care about being out. We just walk her 3 times a day and then she's in the house. So she's never going to be out in the yard.
All right, guys, we need to finish our deliberations here. Tom?
I was
You're gonna make a
go ahead
motion?
and make a motion that we declare
you.
this dog a nuisance dog.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I think that we have had the full discussion, so I'm going to take the vote. Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. All right, now that we've declared that the dog is a nuisance dog, Greg, can you give us, I know you've suggested some language and some broad language, and I certainly agree. None of us can sit here and figure out, what's the best way to control this dog. But I do think that, if you can give us some language, and one of the things that needs to be part of it is that the dog will not be outside, in the yard or unleashed, unsupervised.
And muzzled.
Unmuzzled, thank you.
Okay, so yes, so how about something like when the dog is outside of its house, it shall be muzzled, restrained on a leash, held by an adult capable of restraining the dog, and shall be fitted with a safety measure such as a harness or choke collar, as may be recommended by the trainer.
Anita and then Tom.
Would it make sense to add something about continued training or?
Yeah, I think so. We'll continue the training.
Okay, do you want to set any parameters on how long the training should be?
Hard for me, I don't know about anybody else, but hard for me to do that since I have no idea how long it should be. Okay, I don't know when you decide that the training is done, is over, or what. I don't know, thoughts from other folks? Tom?
I mean, so I'm in favor of training, and we could just put a time limit on it, at least 3 more months. I don't know, it's a little bit arbitrary, but I'm not sure how to do something better. I think the main thing is to make sure that the the dog is always on leash and muzzle. That's the primary and under control. So I guess, Greg, I might add training for a period to extend at least 3 months, additional 3 months.
Okay, and then the other thing that was discussed was some sort of medication. Is, you know, I mean, I think that again, it's getting into a difficult territory there because none of us here are veterinarians. We don't know, you know, whether medication is appropriate, whether it's effective. The owners have indicated that they would be willing to discuss that with their vet. My suggestion would be that that's probably good enough.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think we can mandate medication when we don't know whether or not it would be effective or not. So.
I mean,
And Madam Chair,
to be perfectly abundantly overly clear, I never said meds. I said, has
I
it
know.
been vet for that question?
I know. Scott, Greg, you started to say something?
yeah, no, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt, Scott. I didn't see your hand up there. Just one thing I wanted to mention, it hasn't been part of your deliberations, but it was mentioned at the very beginning. Once you find that the dog is a nuisance dog, you have very broad discretion to fashion a remedy to abate the nuisance. But one thing that you do not have the authority to do is to order that the dog be removed from the town or given up by the owners. That is something that is expressly prohibited by the statute. So, I mean, that is not the direction that the board seems to be going in, but because it was raised at the beginning, I just thought it would make sense to put that out there so that members of the public understand why that has not been part of your discussions here.
Thank you. Okay, Tom.
Attorney Corbo, if you'd like to reread the motion, I will make the motion.
Okay, great. I will, I've been trying to scribble it down while we've been talking, but okay, so the motion would be, I move that when the dog is outside of its house, it shall be muzzled, contained on a leash held by an adult capable of restraining the dog, and fitted with additional safety equipment as may be recommended by the trainer at all times, and that the owners shall continue the training for a period of at least 3 additional months.
So moved.
Second? Is anybody second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor? Scott?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Aye. Greg, one last thing from a housekeeping point of view. We had materials that were part of our packet. Do we need to move to accept them into the record of this hearing tonight?
Yes, so that's a good idea.
Okay, so can somebody make a motion that we move all written materials that were part of our packets tonight into the public hearing record?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. All right. I guess, Greg, remind me sort of formality. This will be written up as an order and sent to Kate and Pete.
Yes, so I'll write this up as your decision, and then you can have either Jody or Eric sign it, and we'll send it out.
Okay. Attorney Cohen, since you do represent them, would you, we'll copy you on whatever we send to Kate and Pete.
Great, thank you.
All right. With that, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Scott?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you all. And thank you everybody who attended. Thank you all for your comments.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thanks, Greg.
You're welcome.
All right. now that we are sort of like hopelessly behind schedule, we are, let me find out, board reports and updates. Does anybody have any board reports and updates? Great, moving right along. We have minutes for approval. Okay, we have minutes for release from our regular sessions of August 9th, 23rd, September 13th and 27th, October 11th, and October 25th. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So
moved.
A second?
Second.
We're going to do this by hand. Everybody raise their hands, all in favor? Great. We've got executive session minutes from August 23rd, September 13th, September 27th, October 11th, and November 15th, not for release. Is there a motion to approve these executive session minutes but not release them?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, raise your hands. Great. And then finally, we have executive session minutes from the following: January 9th, 2018, September 11th, 2018, January 22nd, 2019, April 23rd, 2019, May 14th, 2019, May 28th, 2019, June 25th, 2019, September 10th, 2019, October 29th, 2019, January 28th, 2020, March 31st, 2020, April 7th, 2020, May 5th, 2020, October 27th, 2020, November 24th, 2020, July 13th, 2021, August 10th, 2021, September 24th, 2021, November 9th, 2021, November 23rd, 2021, February 8th, 2022, April 12th, 2022, July 12th, 2022. Is there a motion to release, to approve and release these executive session minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Great, it's unanimous. Jody, you're up. Town managers report.
Okay, thank you. So we've got a request to approve the following contracts. Communication Workers of America Collective Bargaining Agreement for fiscal years 23 to 25. MJ Cataldo for site preparation work for the new fire training facility in the amount of $313,350. Presidio Networked Solutions for Cisco Flex Plan support, amount of $93,594.56. And then grants, Mass Office of Disability to update our ADA self-evaluation and transition plan in the amount of $90,175. And I might mention, I think this is the 4th year Eric applied for that and we finally got it. So thank you very much for that, Eric. Greater Lowell Community Foundation for Mental Health Support for Children and Adolescents, the amount of $15,000. Executive Office of Public Safety and Security and Department of Fire Services for Fire Safety Equipment Grant in the amount of $9,491. And MEMA for protective equipment in the amount of $5,100.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Aye. Is there a motion to waive reading of correspondence?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hands. And is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you all very much. Good night. I know it's been a long meeting, but we did get a lot done and we got a lot of information. So appreciate everybody who hung in there with us in the audience and all your patience. Everybody